Should be live. Good morning, people. Good morning. How's it going, D-Ray? How's it going, Jesse? Oh, it's early. I don't know how D-Ray's up at this same time, but I think he wakes up like 4 a.m. every day or something crazy. But I'm definitely not. I definitely don't have the sleep schedule for this consistently. I went to bed at like 2 last night. So we're rolling on about 3.5 hours of sleep. But good morning, guys. Welcome. How are we doing today? Hopefully we're excited. Definitely drop a like if you are so. I'm definitely excited myself. Hopefully we can get through this in a timely manner, though. I'm obviously joined by my co-host, JustLukas, if you want to say hi.
What's good, guys? Hey, I'm JustLukas. You probably know me from somewhere. And I'm here to host this beautiful thing with Owen. I'm really hyped.
Oh, yeah. It is time for sure. Before we jump in, we do just have... I should have put like a little screen before. I do just want to kind of preface this league and what kind of league it is, and different things like that, obviously. Oh, I got admin for the chat, and I thought I messed up or did something wrong here. Okay, let me go ahead and go to the rules. I just want you guys to know this is an S tier league. Seems weird. He's a little bit weird, but he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. But I do just want to mention that this is an S tier league. Obviously, see the first pick of the draft is Begin. Begin typically isn't allowed in most leagues, so I'm sure you put 2 and 2 together. Either thought it was S tier or Uber. But this is going to be an S tier league. And other than that, it is going to be a tier-based draft. Really, the only way we could do it with S tiers. I'm sure maybe we could have done some hybrid like points and system with one S tier or something like that, but there really wasn't an easy way to do it, and we kind of rushed out this league. So we're gonna be doing tiers instead of points, unfortunately, which definitely is unfortunate, but not the biggest deal in the world. So it's gonna be 1 S tier, tiers 1, 2, 3, 2 tier 3s, 4 and 5, and then 4 free picks. And we are basically locked into that, and standard smoke on clauses, and only drive it on pass, and things like that. Pretty self-explanatory. Before we jump into the draft, do you have anything you want to mention, Lucas, or am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so. I think that's all that had to be said there.
And S tiers aren't required. S tiers are not required. I think there might be one coach who didn't draft an S tier, which is fair. He wanted to get an extra tier 1, which we did allow coaches to draft that one extra tier 1. But
I think exactly one person did that.
Yeah,
there weren't too many who did.
It was just one, and we'll see who it is here eventually. And if you see someone with an unbelievable amount of tier 1 Pokemon, it's because we allowed people to substitute. And if you got a later pick in the draft and you didn't like any of the S tiers left, we're not gonna make you use whatever mon that is. Obviously, I don't want to spoil who didn't draft what and what S tier didn't get drafted. And I guess we should mention that only 12 S tiers. We only, kind of tiered for 12 S tiers, and a lot of them are really big stretches. And there's one that comes up about a little bit into this draft that you're like, damn, why the hell was that allowed? We stretched a little bit. And the mod's probably a little too good for a format like this, but realistically, this league's for fun. It's to give people content for, this last couple months before BDSP and things like that and new games come out, which, people need leagues. So we kind of wanted a little bit more of a fun idea to spice things up, because the metagame's getting a little bit stale at this point in Sword and Shield's lifespan. So we're kind of trying to stretch that as long as we can. So there's 1 S tier for every coach if they do try to pick it, and a couple of them are a little bit of a stretch. How's it going, Dashing Reptile? This is not Uber's, it's an S tier league. So a little bit of a hybrid between a standard league and an Uber's league. But like I said, there's going to be some Pokemon that are a little bit of a stretch. But we can go ahead and jump into the first pick, which is going to be my good pal, Grandmaster D-Ray. He's going to pick Magearna first overall. And this made me so sad because I want to try Magearna so freaking bad. And I never get the opportunity to. I definitely did not have the pick to do that. In this draft, obviously D-Ray grabbed it first overall over some pretty scary threats, but I definitely understand why he did. Because one of the scary threats that, maybe should have gone first overall is something he used recently, which is definitely understandable. But this Pokemon has an incredible defensive typing in Steel and Fairy, ridiculous coverage overall in its stats, plus Aura Sphere, gets Volt Switch, gets Bolt Beam, it can Trick Room, it can Calm Mind, it can Shift Gear, so many different setup options, and then Soul Heart is obviously such a crazy ability. Basically just special Moxie, which is definitely very solid. And it's special Moxie in the sense that you don't even need to knock out your opponent. If your opponent gets knocked out in front of you, or a Pokemon gets knocked out, you will get that boost. And obviously in singles, it's only that. So Magearna is absolutely insane. It has Heal Bell for, providing cleric support. It has, cool things like Thunder Wave and Trick, and, definitely a ton of different options, making this Pokemon really, really versatile. If you sit down and you really want to, formulate a great win con, Mag's going to be able to do it in 90% of games. You can go with, and I didn't even mention too, the Iron Defense, Calm Mind, Weakness Policy, like Draining Kiss sets to keep yourself healthy. So Draining Kiss is another great tool that Mag got. Absolutely insane mod. I think this mod is really, really good, and especially if in the hands of a confident builder, it's gonna do really well always, and it's terrifying to build for. But yeah, do you have any other things you want to mention about Magearna here, Lucas?
Like, basically the fact that this thing gets set up in every possible way you could imagine. The coverage it gets, its stats, its typing. It's just such an amazing mon for Draft League, and I know why it is banned normally, and I don't really need to say anything about it besides I'm pretty sure that D-Ray is gonna do an amazing job with executing this mon.
Oh yeah.
And I'm afraid.
Oh yeah. And not even just the setup too. I've seen Specs Mag put in tons of work. Specs Flare Cannons and Flash Cannons are definitely tough to switch into, so this is definitely a D-Raid type mon. Before we jump into the next mon, I do want to implore you guys, if you haven't done so, like the stream. I'd appreciate it. It helps push us out. Helps other people come and see our stream and join us and join in on the fun. But let's go ahead and jump into the next pick, which is going to be Giratina Origin by Amel. What do you got to say about Giratina?
Oh, so there's a lot of things we could say about Giratina. I'm happy it's not Giratina altered form. That is the first thing, because that's a menace. Giratina O has a lot of coverage on both sides. It has to hold the Capricious Orb, I think it's called. It has a specific item, which kind of nerfs it a bit in my opinion, but that isn't the case here, because it gets huge buffs on Ghost and Dragon type moves, which is most likely going to spam anyway. It has some fighting coverage for those Ghost types or normal types better. Not Ghost types, what am I talking? But yeah, it gets a lot of coverage moves, it gets a lot of setup opportunities like Carmine, it can Will-O-Wisp opponents, it can defog if you really need one, Priority and Shadow Sneak, and I think the biggest part on this thing is Poltergeist. It got Poltergeist this generation, and I'm not really sure why it should get Poltergeist in the first place, because I think it has like a 120 base attack?
Yeah, 120 both of its attack stats, yeah.
Yeah, and that then a Poltergeist at 110 base power coming off from this thing, boosted by the orb it holds. It's not fun to switch in. And if you think like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna switch a normal type into that, have fun. It gets Aura Sphere. Yeah. It's not gonna get better from here on.
No, this Pokemon is absolutely terrifying, and I think you mentioned obviously the Gristy Sword making its stabs pretty darn strong, giving it that nice 1.2 times boost, which is definitely pretty noticeable for sure. But I know this is the more offensive version, but this thing's still ridiculously fat, man. 150 HP with 100 bulk across the board, with a great speed tier 90, with proper wish support and potential cleric support with this thing being Rest or Rest Hawk. It's also really hard to kill. It's not like it's frail. Like the other one's a lot bulkier and can hold an item, but this one's still very fat and it's a lot stronger, and it's really tough to kill. Yeah, 150 base HP, 100 defenses. So it's definitely not a pushover. It's just less bulky, which is definitely terrifying. So, and I know Amel's a really creative builder, this one boy, and I'm sure he'll do absolutely well with this thing. Next up, we have actually a non-S tier pick by Incog here in Mew. Really valuing, trying to grab what I'm assuming he sees as either the best mon or one of the best mons in the format in Standard, and he'd definitely be right, obviously. In the hands of a proper builder, Mew is absolutely terrifying to deal with because it can do so many different things. I have Mew, I've had a Mew in a few leagues this gen. My buddy Kurt has Mew, and I believe it's, I think he already just drafted now, so it's an IVA, and it's a mon where it's almost kind of a nuisance having it, because you build and you're like, damn, Nasty Ball does really well here, but Stall Breaker does good. I'd really like Spike's Mew here. I like, like fat, Stall Breaker, things like that. And it really becomes hard to build with, but if you draft a proper team around it, where you have a team that doesn't force Mew into being offensive and being the sweeper, or doesn't force Mew into being that defensive, fat pivot, you can do so many things that cover so many different holes. And all of the S tiers are good, so I understand the idea of saying, like, I'll get one next round, I'm guaranteed to get one, because there's, again, 12 of them, and there's 12 coaches. And it's not like, Mew really clashes with any of these S tiers as well, as kind of what you'll see as well. It does suck, because you might be kind of forced to have one of the subpar ones, I guess would be a way of saying it. But again, you still have a Mew. Debatably one of the best ones in the format, behind maybe something like Pult, which I think, in my opinion, is probably a little better. But in Galadex, Mew's a very close second in my mind. Or maybe even third if you have Urshifu Single Strike and stuff like that, which we do have a lot in this league. So still, regard this very solid pick by Incog, and it just opens up so many possibilities for him to draft later on. It's almost like he's drafting Mew and then a separate team if you're doing it right. You have anything on Mew?
I've been used Mew quite some times, and I know Incog's words were, hell no, I'm not gonna let Lucas draft Mew again in another league. I'm not doing this to myself. And I totally understand why, because you can run anything with this thing. Like, it gets access to every TM there ever were, whatever, it gets it. Like, it gets a lot of moves you don't even know exist, like Transform. It gets Transform. Why does it get Transform? It does not make sense to me, but like, the amount of sheer preparation that needs to go into this Mew will take away pressure from his other mons. And this makes this thing especially strong, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. SBU stands for Superb Battlers United, by the way, Plasma. And yeah, Emil, you did just miss your first pick. You just missed it. But let's go ahead and jump on to the next one, which should be Reshiram. And this is pick 3 Reshiram. And yes, we are indeed allowing Reshiram in the SBU. You wanna tell the good people about why Reshiram probably should have gone first overall and is probably a little too broken for a format like this?
I saw a Reshiram 2-hit KO of Florges, a full special defensive Florges. I don't think I need to say much else about this thing. I will still, but it's just so fucking powerful, let's be honest. Like, its attack stat, special attack stat, its ability to jump over abilities, basically. Like, your Flash Fire, this thing doesn't care. It will still burn you to a crisp if it needs to. Like, the way you can run this thing, you don't even need to invest everything you have into special attack, because its special attack is that high. You can run physical attacks as well on this thing, because it gets a pretty wide physical move.
And Dragon Dance.
And Dragon Dance, I was about to say that. If you really wanted to, you could just Dragon Dance up on with this thing and sweep. Oh, yeah. I saw people in BBL do that a couple of times. I helped someone prep with a Reshiram sometimes, and it's just amazing how many things you can run on this mon, which you basically would expect to be rather one-dimensional, because, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run specs on this thing and kill something. But there's more to this thing. Like, it basically has the same defensive line as Zekrom, and we all know what Zekrom can do to a team, because you cannot kill it with a ground type move normally. One isn't enough, and he will set up on you. And yeah, it's not a fun time most of the times. No. It gets body press. I don't think it gets iron defense. I'm not 100% positive on that. I would need to check that. But regardless, the coverage this thing gets is phenomenal, and I really love using it. It might be a bit on the slower side, but that is not stopping this thing. Get some web support or something for this thing, and it's gonna wipe out the team before you even say something.
Oh, no, for sure. And I think that's something it's really stepped on is Reshi's bulk. You can go specs and just absolutely nuke everything. There really aren't Reshiram resists, regardless of what your water type is, what your dragon resist is. Dragon Fire is such a good typing offensively and so hard to switch into on a Pokemon like this with 150 base special attack. But again, the bulk is really, really insane. 100 base HP, 100 defense, and then 120 speed def. And 90 is still a very solid speed tier. It's definitely not an awful speed tier by any means. You two playing in this? We are. We'll get to my pick here soon. But yeah, this thing's bulk is absolutely insane. And I think, just not only the option of, like I said, specs, but like sub-toxic sets or just fat Will-O-Wisp sets and things like that are definitely a big possibility. Or even weakness policy, flame charge type sets are definitely a possibility and an option with Reshiram. So Trexo's gonna have a good time for sure.
Yeah,
and he got this pick 3. which is absolutely disgusting. I get why D-Ray didn't pick it, because he had him BBL. Absolutely killed it within BBL, as you can see. Kill leader in Ubers League. He got to kill leader in BBL. So, crazy for allowing Reshiram. I know, it was this or something other dumb. This was the main one where I was like, this shouldn't be an S tier. But there's not a lot of Pokemon Sword and Shield, so it's an S tier. Yeah, and that's Reshiram. I think this thing's going to be absolutely terrifying for people to deal with.
Oh,
Next
yes,
up,
it will be.
Solgaleo. Another month maybe is a little bit on the cusp, but we ended up going with Solgaleo. We were kind of teetering and debating between Solgaleo and Dialga, and we decided that Solgaleo might be a little less overwhelming and broken. But it's still here, and it's still absolutely terrifying. Another mon with absolutely crazy bulk. 97 is actually a pretty solid speed tier. It outspeeds a lot of the S tiers that can potentially deal with it. Full Metal Body is just clear body with a cooler name. So that's definitely really sick. Obviously being immune to Intimidate and stat dropping, or even webs and things like that. Different forms of speed control. It gets a recovery Morning Sun, has great coverage in things like Flare Blitz and close combat. Also has agility, access to agility, and even Calm Mind is a very viable option with this thing, which is definitely cool. It gets Trick Room, it gets Teleport even for slow momentum, a bunch of different status options. So very solid Pokemon. Sunsteel Strike is very spammable on top of obviously something like Psychic Fangs and Flare Blitz and things like that. So you can go Choice Band or Life Orb and just absolutely nuke things. Oh, Earthquake as well. Crunch for Fat Psychics. I might want to switch in on it. And this thing with the weakness policy is crazy. It gets really hard to deal with this Pokemon when you're trying to play around a potential weakness policy boosting set. But you can't Toxic it. You can't wear it down, passively that way. Makes it very tough to deal with overall, in my opinion.
Yep,
but yeah,
I agree.
I think we're gonna start zooming a little bit, because I'm realizing we're about 15 minutes in. We're not even through round 1, really. So we're going to start zooming through. We're going to keep alternating and things like that. Like I said, drop a like if you guys are enjoying and things like that. And we're dropping commands for your favorite coaches. Plus Morning Sun. Yeah, no, Jesse's in chat right now. Plus Morning Sun makes this thing absolutely just ridiculous to deal with. We're dropping exclamation point, and the coach's name in the chat. So you can go check them out. Please go ahead and go, drop them a sub. Draft announcers go live tomorrow. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Draft announcers go live tomorrow. So definitely go check out each and every coach. I also have them in the description of this video. If you want a little bit easier of a way to go check them out, go sub to everybody. Go tell them that, go watch their draft content and tell them tomorrow that their team's broken. Okay, next, it's my turn. So I'm going to talk about this one, so I guess it's not back to back. I got Kyurem Black. I'm very excited to use Kyurem. This is a Pokemon I used in Gen 7 draft before Boots were a thing, before Icicle Spear was a thing, before, before Boots, Icicle Spear, and Freeze Dry. And obviously, yeah, Dragon Dance, the big one. Kyurem Black getting access to Dragon Dance is what really sent it over the edge. The other things might have pushed it to, either best in the format or maybe bannable potentially. But DD absolutely set it over the top, and this thing became an absolute monster and menace. Not only in these S tier type formats, but even in Ubers. It's really hard to deal with this Pokemon. Another Pokemon that has crazy bulk. That base 170 attack is really insane, but 125 HP, 100 defense, 90 speed def, very fat. Plenty of setup opportunities, especially with Boots kind of mitigating my Stealth Rock weakness that I could potentially have with this Pokemon. And then obviously being able to go mixed or special, 120 special attack still very good. And I get access to things like Freeze Dry and Earth Power and Focus Blast and different things like that. So I'm definitely very excited to use Kyurem. I think it's a Pokemon that really rewards creative building. At least it definitely did in Gen 7. I haven't used it in Gen 8, so I can't really say it in that respect. But Gen 7, it really rewarded creative building, proper EV management, and things like that. And those are things that I think I'm very good at. And I think I can really make shine with a proper team built around Kyurem. So I'm definitely super juiced to use this thing in Gen 8, because it's been a minute since I've gotten to use my boy. So it'll definitely be a good time for sure. What were the borderline stuff that you guys, allowed that you guys banned? Hadn't been paying attention close enough to see what your Uber cutoff for this league was. So the two main ones that I think are like the biggest, like, oh shit, we allowed Reshiram and Solgaleo, and then I think like the next closest would be Giratina, and those all already went. The rest of them I think you could consider S tiers and not like be stretching too much, at least in my mind. All right, next up we have Naganadel. Lucas, you want to tell him about Naganadel?
I have never even used this mon because it's normally always taken or banned, but I know this thing is a pain. Like, the fact that it's a poison dragon type Normally you would be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna send in a fairy type to deal with that big back dragon in front of me. Yeah, not against this thing. It's gonna sludge bomb you and it's over with you. If you want to bring in like a steel type, have fun. This thing has a fire blast waiting for you, and it's not like it has a weak special attack stat. No, it definitely does not. And if you may be one of those lucky steel types that's bulky enough to live a hit, it has Nasty Bluff. And since it's an Ultra Beast, it gets the beautiful ability Beast Boost, and this will boost its speed after it killed you with something. And now we're looking at a +2 special attack, +1 speed Naganadel with probably a Life Orb, and it's ready to sweep you. I would say this is really fun to play against, and it's an amazing mon to use. And with the toolbox it brings to a table, you have a lot of space to build around it. Like, it is weak against Ice, Psychic, and Ground, I think. Maybe
and Dragon, obviously.
Dragon, Dragon. But those weaknesses can be easily covered, in my opinion. And making this thing like this fast it is, this powerful it is, you don't even need to run a setup set. You can basically run like Scarf, Specs, Life Orb, Sugarberry, even if you want to. I don't think it's that frail. Like, it can take a hit if it needs to.
It's definitely not bulky, but if with proper positioning, you can find plenty of opportunities to get it set up.
I mean, 73 around the board on the defensive side isn't too bad.
No, not with screen support and proper. Yeah, no, it'll be completely fine. This thing's definitely. We'll find plenty of setup opportunities, and yeah, like Burgo was saying in chat, you give it that one turn to set up, and you're screwed, man. you're not in a good spot at all. And it's hard to find a Scarf for faster than the Ganondorf, and if it's speed boosting, yikes, have fun, man.
Yeah,
definitely, absolutely terrifying. And it got Toxic Spikes and Spikes this gen, so as a mon that forces a ton of switches, if you're like just like a Life Orb 3 attacks with Spike set, it's definitely a very viable option too. So
when did it get normal spikes? What?
Gen 8. It got in Gen 8, yeah. Which is definitely a clean buff to it. So mid will have a lot of fun with the Ganondorf. I think this one's absolutely nuts, and with proper momentum support and positioning, it'll definitely do really, really well for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Next up is your pick.
Oh, it's me. Let's go. I got my Genesect. I love this mon. Like, I absolutely love this mon. From the first time I saw it, from the first time I used it, till whatever. I just love this thing. It has, like, I think one of the widest coverage in the game. It has this weird move Techno Blast that changes it typing to whichever disc it holds, so it gets even more coverage. It has a lot of setup. Wait, not a lot, but it gets Shift Gear, which is super dangerous on this thing. It gets Extreme Speed. It gets a lot of those event moves you normally wouldn't see on a Pokemon. It gets Fire type coverage for no reason because it's a Steel type, and normally Steel types don't really get Fire type coverage. It gets every other coverage besides Fairy. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have Fairy and Water coverage outside of Water Drive, like Douse Drive boosted Water moves. Everything else it really gets. This thing's coverage is insane. Yeah.
And then the ability to download, which makes it like you need to force your opponent to do really proper EV spreads against this thing, because if they don't think about download, or if they don't have a specific set in mind and you bring said set, they might be in a bad situation, because even though most of the times it probably is going to be Scarf and good pivot with U-turn, there are still sets where it can set up a Shift Gear in your face, and then you're probably going to lose to it, because it's hard to switch in a +2 E-speed or whatever it wants to throw at you.
Or Bandit or Specs are definitely a absolutely terrifying option for sure. This Pokemon's definitely... This is one of the ones I was definitely thinking about drafting myself. This thing's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it is.
Alright, next up.
I don't think we need to... Yeah.
We have Dragapult. Now, Tone Slides, he took out the face cam box in the thing, and I didn't notice until just now, so when Tone comes up, you won't see my beautiful face anymore. But I'll be back soon, I promise. Tone ended up grabbing Dragapult, and as you can see, it's in his S tier slot. There's no really way to, like, kind of not spoil this in the, like, the slides we made. So Tone actually didn't end up taking an S tier. He waited until round 2 to potentially take one, and didn't really like the ones that were left on the board, personally, so he ended up going with extra tier ones. But in his S tier slot, he grabbed, in my opinion, the best mon in the format, bar none, in Dragapult, which, again, definitely makes sense. This is a Pokemon I was even thinking about saying, like, maybe we'll make this S tier. But then I was like, that's kind of lame. You know, if someone was drafting S tier, they're probably not going to want to draft something they can draft in another league. But it ended up working out that way. Anyways, obviously, this thing's speed tier, insane. Anything one, I think it's 142, or is it 143? Regardless, 142, I think, because Sarah's 143. Regardless, 99% of the time, it is going to be the fastest thing on the field. Dragon Ghost is a crazy typing. This thing has crazy coverage, crazy utility, and pretty much every status move that's not toxic, which is great. We can go ahead and just click Hex on everything with a proper status spam. It can definitely be absolutely terrifying. Dragon Dance is a potential setup option. It can be really annoying. Obviously, Pivot Drum with U-Turn, can be Specs, can be Life Orb, can be Boots, because it just doesn't want to get worn down via Spikes and U-Turn all the time. Pulse sucks, Giratina, better Ghost Dragon. Amel, you are right, for sure. I would agree, but we all can't have Giratina like you, Mr. Third overall, was it? We all can't have Giratina like you did. But yeah, I think Pulse is definitely a worthwhile pick in your S tier slot if you want to go the route of not grabbing an S tier and getting, you know, some stronger tier 1 Pokemon and stuff like that. Or getting that extra tier 1 Pokemon. And Toad's team definitely turns out very solid. I play him week 1. And it's definitely a very, very not fun team to try and draft and things like that. So that is going to be Pulp. Next up, Zamac, John Jr. What do you guys say about Zamac?
Zamac is probably one of the best defensive Pokemons in the game. As physically defensive, at least. Especially defensive, it's not that great, but still really bulky. It can switch free into any knockoff that potentially wants to be thrown around, because it has a set item that cannot be knocked off. It resists that move, and we all hate facing off against knockoffs, because most of the time you don't want to lose an item. So yeah, don't even click it against John, because he will bring in this thing. And then you probably either need to sacrifice something, or need to find a way to break it. Because even though it's being that defensive and gets a defense boost on entry, it still has a base 140 attack stat, if I'm not completely wrong.
130. Close.
130, okay. Still, that's still a lot of attack for a basically more defensive one. And he has a not that wide of a coverage, but he has good coverage of moves like Close Combat. He gets Beomorph Bass, which would appreciate if your opponent could max, but they cannot, so it doesn't matter. But still, that's a 100 base power steel type move with no drawback. He gets Wild Charge. He gets, I think, Psychic Fangs and Crunch and shit like that. And he gets Hole in case he wants to set up. Like, it's not the best setup move, but a +1 attack is a +1 attack. That's basically a choice band on this thing.
Oh yeah. I've used Zamac. There's a lot of leagues that have been trying, especially in the Showdown side of the community, and Nat Dex leagues and stuff like that have been kind of playing with the fact that, you know, maybe Zamac is allowable. And I know Amel's trying it in DGBA right now. I tried it in OLT, and I think this one is absolutely insane. Amel kind of touched on its bulk. I mean, Lucas kind of touched on his bulk. But this thing just doesn't die. I set up on ground types willingly throughout the season, and yet, like you said, Howl isn't the greatest setup move. But when you're this fat, you can very often get up 2, maybe even 3 Howls, and you're so fast that a lot of the time that's all you really need. It also gets access to agility, which I think is definitely really, really cool as well. Oh, I totally forgot to plug them. Thank you. But it's also really, really cool as well. This thing can rest talk. And you said from the Spadef side, it's not the bulkiest thing. I guess not, because it doesn't get the Spadef boost on the switch like it does on the defense side, but that's still 145 Spadef. Base Spadef, yeah. Which is insane. You can even go with like cheesy workup sets and go mixed with things like Moonblast and, you know, Focus Blast and Flash Cannon and things like that. So I think this thing is absolutely insane. It is so hard to switch into, or not even so hard to switch into. There's definitely decent pivots, but it's so hard to break, especially if you're switching into it with passive fat psychics and things like that. I'm gonna howl and rest in your face, and then howl again, and just absolutely rip through your team. Or I'm just gonna, you know, rest talk and sit in front of everything ever. Both are strong offensive, can show versus bulkier monsters. Zama trades a bit of speed for great bulk to switch on those offensive ones. Yeah, no, for sure. Zama is an offense killer. It is very, very solid. I definitely really enjoy this Pokemon. So great pickup by John. Next up, we have another tier 1 pick instead of an S tier in round 1, and Urshifu Single Strike. Definitely makes a ton of sense. Very, very solid mon. Again, for sure top 3 in the format in standard draft. So again, definitely makes sense. And, you know, Tiro can kind of secure a good range of Pokemon that he's going to get as his S tier. and kind of secure that really solid tier 1 pick here close to the wheel, which again is very solid. So I definitely like this Urshifu pick. This thing just simply does not have switch-ins at all. It really just does not have switch-ins at all. Between Wicked Blow, Close Combat, U-Turn, Sucker Punch, and then Poison Jab and Iron Head for fairies. It gets elemental punches like Thunder Punch, things like that. It can bulk up, it can be banded, scarfed, life orb, a ton of black glasses to bluff different choice items and things like that. So definitely a very solid mon, for sure. And then we have round 1 Coco. What do you think about round 1 Coco?
Coco is like one of those mons you either see go round 1 really early, or you see it really late in the draft, in my experience. I know it's a really amazing mon, and it gives you access to electric terrain, which can in most scenarios be crucial, especially if you build a team around her. I don't know if he did, but that's something for later on. But Coco is like one of the best pivots in the game. It gets access to light screens if you want to run more of the supportive set, or just run specs and kill something. Like, that's amazing. Just expect Thunderbolt, or if you predict the opponent to switch in a grass type, specs grass knot, and that's probably not your problem anymore. It's gonna be wiped off the field and open up for either Coco sweeping or some of the other mons sweeping. And if you have something like Coco on your team, you basically already set a sample of, hey, I'm gonna be offensive. Have fun dealing with that shit.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And again, the speed tier is great. The versatility is great. Coco's one of my favorite draft mons of all time. It's probably in my top, 5 just favorite mons to use ever. Obviously, a little bit of a fall from grace from Gen 7 with a Tran Murph, no more Z moves, no more hidden power, but it's still so good. And again, like Tiro was saying in the chat, a lot of the really good S tiers were gone, and being that Tiro and Ant are both here at this back wheel, they can kind of get that S tier either next round, or even talk amongst each other with the 2 other people that don't have S tiers, and maybe get it later in the draft again. So that definitely makes sense, securing that tier 1 that you really want. And I believe that is the end of round 1. It is, because we see a Garchomp right here. This time, I mean it. We're going super fast through these. I'll talk about Garchomp right here. I'm going to set the precedent. I'm going to set the precedent on how quick we're going to go. Dragon Ground typing, crazy stab combination, obviously a phenomenal sweeper. Coco breaks water's great for this thing, which is obviously very solid. You just need something for those fat grasses, and that offense, of course, going to be absolutely bananas to deal with. Definitely very annoying. Great rocker. Slept on bulk. Tank Chomp is very solid. So definitely tons of awesome options with Garchomp outside of just like Swords Dance, Scale Shot type shenanigans. Can really be used well in the hands of a good builder. And Coco Chomp is a great combination. I had it in the NCP tour, and it's very solid for a reason. And I definitely think it's a pretty smart move by Ant drafting that here. Boom! Cinderace.
Don't we all love the wonderful liberal Cinderace? Basically, Greninja Protein 2.0, and yeah, there's a lot of to talk about this thing, but we keep it short and simple. If you want to run more of support stuff, you give this thing heavy duty boots. It can pivot around like crazy. If you want to be like a menace to society and just kill everything, you run Choice Bandit. And not a lot of things switch into either a high jump kick, pyro ball, or gang shot, because those are the 3 highest hitting moves it gets, which all have stab, and even a bandit U-turn will hurt something that comes in. And combining that with an Urshifu, which is also a really amazing physical wall breaker, this will make it super hard for teams to switch into this. Like, if you mispredict and he goes actually for the U-turn, goes into Urshifu, you basically need to sacrifice him on, vice versa if he goes starts off with Urshifu and goes into Cinderace. This is really threatening, and people will have a lot of fun playing against this. Or not. Depends on how they like playing.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And Tiro said none of the good S tiers were left when there was Lobro Cinderace sitting there, so I want everybody to remember that. So thanks, Tiro. Good stuff, man. Alright, next up we got Latios, one of my favorite tier 1 Pokemon, absolutely terrifying to try and switch in and deal with, and it really struggles only with Darks and Fairies, and John has a Zamazenta, which kind of bullies both of those things. Zama I know is neutral fairy, but it's a fairy resist. Calc Dazzling Gleams and Moonblast against it, man. It's a fairy resist. If you're not hitting it super effectively, you're not 2-8 KOing or 3-8 KOing this monster. So I think it with Lottie is definitely very solid. 110 speed tier, so he has that like 135 or whatever Zama hits. Let me double check that because I don't want to sound dumb. 128. Oops. It's 128. So 128 speed tier. So he has that 110, 115 plus, or that 115 plus mon, and that 110. So he's already kind of filling out his really high speed tiers. Lottie has great coverage, setup options. Defog and Rouge can be really fat, which I think people sleep on. They think only Latias is super fat. And Latios is the offensive one. Yeah, that's true. But both can still fill those other roles really, really phenomenally. Latios is still very, very bulky. So definitely a very solid mon by John. I know it's a mon that he's very comfortable with, and will definitely play very, very well with. So, I do love me some Latios as well. Definitely absolutely terrifying. Last time I used Latios, I won a championship, so maybe John will do the same thing here. Boom! Melmetal.
Melmetal. Pretty much talk about it. Melmetal is a phenomenal one. It might be on the slower side of things, but it hits like a truck. Like double Iron Bash boosted by a Choice Band or any other offensive item, and the Iron Fist on this thing is gonna hurt basically anything that's not a Water type or Ground type, but it gets coverage moves for both of those other mons. If you really want to run like an Bandit set or shit like that, you have a lot of moves to choose from, you have a lot of things to kill, but there are also other things that this thing could run, like Iron Defense. No, it doesn't get Iron Defense. I think Acid Armor, Iron Defense, or both. And Body Press are painful on this thing. You can rest up, you can T-Wave shit, because it gets T-Wave to control the speed a bit better, since it's basically base 30 speed, which isn't too good. But it gets a lot of things it can do, and it's not that easy to take down. Like, it's gonna take some while breaking this thing if you don't hit it with like a Flex Fire Blast from Chandelure.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, even the Assault Vest set works.
I was just about to say, I love Melmetal, and I love me some Assault Vest Melmetal. That's definitely a very, very solid face. Look at my pretty face is back, but it's Lucas's pick, so you can go ahead and talk about Clef if you want, man.
Hey, I have a Clefable. Everyone knows. Everyone who knows me knows I love my bulky mons. I love my Ferrothorn Steel Cores. I love my Stally shenanigans, and Clefable gives me that. Like, I have an Unaware mon that's not Quagsire for this time, and we're starting up building a Ferrothorn Steel Core. And Clefable gives me Wish support for Genesect, which does not get a lot of recovery. Otherwise, we do get Teleport on this thing. We do get Cleric overall. We get setup options. Unaware and Magic Guard are two amazing abilities. This thing can be run offensively with Life Orb and does not get Life Orb chip on it. And basically, it has all a mon needs in my opinion. It's like one of my favorite mons to use in Draft League.
I love me some Life Orb Clef. That's one of my favorite things, is seeing someone switching their passive mon to with their Steel type to Life Orb Clef and getting melted by a Fire Blast. I think that is absolutely one of my favorite things to see in this thing. And something I think is really cool for this thing with your team too is the momentum it offers and slow teleport and Genesect. Where you wouldn't think this is a great momentum core. It really is. It definitely helps it out a ton. So definitely a solid pick. Next up, we got Victini. You know those steel types that might maybe be able to check Naganadel. It's okay. Victini's here. Especially when that Naganadel can U-turn. We kind of talked about how it has Nasty Plot and it can set up an own again for itself. But it still has access to U-turn for momentum, so Scarf and Spec sets are going to be really scary alongside Victini, with like Specs Naganadel plus Scarf Victini, or Band or Specs Tini versus Scarf with Scarf Naganadel. It's going to form a really scary offensive core, really scary momentum core. Obviously, Naganadel offering spikes for Victini is great. Victini loves hazards, as much of them as humanly possible, so it can click V Create, it can click Bolt Strike, it can click all those crazy high base power moves that it for some reason gets. Definitely a really solid core, and I know Victini is actually like mids, like I think Mew is his most used mon, and then Victini is like his second most kills, like all time. I know this is mon he really enjoys using, so I think it really definitely fits mid, and I think he grabbed like the perfect S tier to pair it with, or one of the best ones to pair it with. I think this will form a great core for mid.
Agree.
Here I am. I'm next. I grabbed Rillaboom. I think that Rillaboom Kyurem is going to be really fun. Obviously gives me great momentum options. They are kind of stuffed by steel types together, but Kyurem gets coverage for steels, Rillaboom does too. And my round 3 pick kind of mitigates that, which we'll kind of talk about here in a little bit. But the main thing with Rillaboom is it absolutely bullies waters. Not that Kyurem doesn't bully waters, not that it can't just absolutely sit on them, especially special cure him with things like Freeze Dry, and even Physical with Fusion Bolt. It's nice to have something that just breaks through them so that I can easily just DD Icicle Spear through everything else, which is obviously very, very solid. The terrain support is going to be really nice, just giving cure him that passive recovery, especially if I'm not able to run leftovers because I need to be Boots or Life Orb or Specs or Banded or anything like that. Scarf cure him, things like that. So I think that Rillaboom is going to help a ton. And giving that passive recovery, like Emil just said in chat, yeah, giving it that passive recovery with how bulky it is going to give me plenty more setup opportunities, plenty more opportunities to stay on the field and wreak havoc. I really like Rillaboom, though. Obviously, a phenomenal Pokemon. Grassy Glide for great priority, really ripping through a lot of teams and picking off weakened threats, especially with a lot of these really, really scary S tiers and things like that. So I'm definitely very excited for Rillaboom here. Boom! Next up, Tornty.
You talked about the problems with Solgaleo being not too strong against ground types or typing he struggles against. Well, yeah, ground types are not a problem anymore, because what is a ground type going to do against the Tornadoes? Like, worst thing it does is click like Stone Edge or something like that, but therefore you have to fucking Solgaleo. Like, you have a lot of things to play around with those two mons. You have a good momentum core with Teleport and U-turn on this thing. He gets a wide coverage of moves. You can, now with the heavy duty boots added to the game, it does not lose those 25% on each entry. So the momentum basically does not stop with those two mons. And yeah, you have a lot of support options on this thing. Defog, you can knock off, you can U-turn, like I said, Taunt, Roost, all that good shit, but it can regenerate on heavy duty boots? Can we talk about that? And U-turn? That's like the biggest thing on this thing, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Obviously, this thing just does not die, which is definitely fun. Celesteela next for Trexo, definitely a very, very solid Pokemon. Pairs pretty well with Reshiram. I suppose it deals with fairies, but honestly, Reshiram kind of deals with fairies on its own. Celly's just a great mon overall, though, whether it be Fat, Annoying, Leech Protect, Toxic, Shenanigans type Celly, or Autotomize with a weakness policy, or a Power Herb, or something like that. Definitely is very, very terrifying for teams to deal with. It's so versatile, and it really offers a ton of different aspects for an area, like for where Trexo can go from here with his team, whether he wants to go really fat balance or really strong, offense with Celly. Both really, really work really well with his team. So yeah, that's going to be Celly. Very, very solid mon. I think that's very solid with Trexo. You just plugged him. Okay, awesome. Boom, Landorus Eye. Looks like Trexo went with, Trexo. Incog went with his S tier pretty early. I figured he would wait, but he ended up going with Lando Eye. What do you think about Lando?
Lando Eye is a phenomenal wall breaker, and there's really little things that actually switch into this thing. Because Earth Power Sheer Force boosted with Life Orb does destroy everything that's not a flying or grass type most of the times, or bug type maybe, but in case it is flying type, or in case it is a grass type, it gets a coverage for us. Like, it has Sludge Wave, it has a Rock Slide, it has so much coverage moves, it gets momentum, it gets setup options, it gets rocks, and yeah, it's an amazing Pokemon.
Very, very solid.
What do I say about it as well?
Yeah, it does kind of fit a clumpy speed tier with Mew, but other than that, I really do like Landorus Eye a lot. Definitely a very solid mon. Just absolutely nukes everything and everything. Anything and everything. Everything and everything. Nice one. It is a cool guy. I wonder what he does. Facts. You might want to check out that link that I linked there. You could check out what Incog does. Definitely very, very solid creator. Boom.
And an amazing logo.
Oh yeah. Next up, we have Necrozma, one of my absolute favorite Pokemon. That is Ryu and Smogon Necrozma. Absolute Draft League Titan. I really love this Pokemon. This thing is so versatile. And in the hands of Emil, who, like I said, is a really creative Draft League player and builder, this Pokemon really scares me even more. I don't know if you've seen some stuff he's run, but with a mon like Necrozma, it has such a wide move pool. So fat, on top of, the Giratina that's obviously so darn fat. It can be really, really, really scary and tough to deal with. They do stack some weaknesses, but with Prism Armor, it's kind of mitigated a little bit. This gives them a Rocker and a Calm Mind Sweeper, a Swords Dancer, a Dragon Dance Sweeper. Autotomized Meteor Beam type shenanigans, Weakness Policy, gets Trick Room, gets plenty of status options. This Pokemon is nuts. I love Necrozma. Definitely like a top 5 mod in the format for me. Like objectively, definitely not a top 5 mod in Galar decks. But for me, I love this thing. I think it's absolutely nuts, and I think it definitely is very solid with Giratina. If he could patch up that Dark and that Ghost weakness just a little bit, he'll be absolutely chilling with these two here at the top of his team. So it definitely makes sense. Boom, Hydreigon.
Hydreigon combined with Magearna.
Yeah.
This is where the fun begins, in my opinion,
Oh, yeah.
because now it's gonna get really painful for everyone. Because right now, D-Ray's team is like, pick a sec.
Yeah, what switches into these two things? I really don't know what Pokemon can cover both of these. I really do not know.
I don't think there is one. Because even if there's one that could cover both weaknesses, those things just gonna U-turn or Volt Switch out and have another Pokemon to worry about, the one mon that potentially tracks both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say it is one mon that could track both. It's gonna be dwindled down at some point, and then have fun.
Oh yeah, no. If D-Ray can just get some hazards, you know, a good spike setter potentially, or just rocks in general, that you turn around with Hydra, Volt switching potentially with Magearna, or just throwing off hits with Magearna, to be completely honest. And also have fun bringing your Fairy type on Hydra when I got a Magearna sitting in the back. That's just going to absolutely bully it and the rest of your team. It really puts teams in a tough spot against Hydra, because you either give something up to Hydra, or you put your team in a position where you give something up to Mag, which low-key might be worse with Soul Heart and its coverage. So, again, it's stuck in a rock and a hard place, honestly, with this team. So I really, really like this combination of Mag plus Hydreigon. I think that's very solid. Very solid.
Yeah.
Next up, this is where the good things end. I'm so mad at you, D-Ray. Why would you draft this Pokemon? I'm upset. I'm glad that it's my turn to talk. We won't talk about it too long. I don't like this Pokemon. I'll be honest. For my draft stream, I can say which Pokemon are shit. This one sucks. But I know what D-Ray was going for originally was like a very John Jr. NCP Season 4 run inspired team where he had Hydra and Spectrier. I mean, he's gonna name his Magearna Klefki because it's the same typing, because John had Klefki. Well, I'm really not the biggest fan of this Pokemon. I really don't like it too much. It definitely has an upside, and I think with a creative builder, it can definitely push through and wear down its checks. It is better than Alecki. I will give it that. It is worth draft. If someone drafts Spectre, I'm gonna be like, damn, that mon sucks. But I'm not gonna be like, you're not allowed to draft that. You're not allowed to draft Alecki in my leagues. Just simply not allowed to draft it. But Spectre can definitely overwhelm its checks. It can Will-O-Wisp them down. It can Willow-Hex a lot of dark types. Normal types, it can taunt and sub and calm mind. And potentially, depending on the normal type, it can push through them with Dark Pulse or something like that as well. It gets Nasty Plot, Specs, and Grew Scary. And this Pokemon, if you do not have a Ghost Resist, which in Generation 8, if you do not have a normal type and a good dark type, when there's no Pursuit in the game, if you don't have both of those things for the terrifying offensive ghosts, what are you doing? But if you play in that matchup, this Pokemon is very terrifying. I will say it's very terrifying. And I think this Pokemon is one getting toxic in its move pool or hidden power come back from being really, really freaking good. It just doesn't. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at with Spectre. I love D-Ray. He's my boy. But god damn it, dude. And you drop this thing. This thing's definitely not my favorite, but what can you do? D-Ray will hopefully find some success with it. And again, his first two picks are so freaking good. I do love Mag Hydra, so we'll give him a high five on that one. But then I'll like take it right back for the Spectre draft. Next up, we got Scizor from Amel.
Let's go.
What do we think about Scizor?
What do we get from Scizor? Like, we get a lot of good offensive momentum going. With the U-turn, we get setup options with the Sword Sense or even Curse, which is realized lately. I mean, it loses Technician, but then Curse.
Not with the ability pills or capsules or whatever. Now it can run that and not be Mega Scizor. Because I know Mega Scizor in the past could only run Curse. The other one would be forced to run Light Metal because it was a transfer move. But in Sword and Shield, they have the item that changes you from hidden ability to regular, I think. So and vice versa. Okay. So I think you can run Technician Curse, which is cool.
This makes things way worse, but that's amazing.
For us, yeah, not for Amel.
Then you get Defog on this thing. It's really bulky. Like, that's not like the type of mon you're gonna kill with a random coverage fire move on one of your Pokemons, because you're gonna need a bit more to kill it.
With no hidden power, especially.
That's true. And besides that, it has a lot of coverage. Technician is a really good ability for this mon. Bullet Punch will hurt like a truck. I think we all know what this thing is really gonna do. It's gonna sweep teams, it's gonna wall some mons, and it's gonna have a really, really good thing.
Oh yeah, gives him another defogger as well, so that Giratina isn't his sole defogger, and bullies fairy types, which is something that Giratina, well, it can kind of sit in front of some of them, doesn't appreciate. So that's definitely very solid. And again, starting to form a little bit of momentum, starting to get a little bit of momentum, which is really nice with things like Giratina as well. Raikou, for big Incog, definitely a very solid mon, gives him a solid speed tier in 115, something to really bulky waters for Landorus. Now again, a lot like Ant earlier, we talked about him having a good electric and ground type. He just needs something to really break down fat grasses, and he's chilling, but he also still has a Mew, which can, if the matchup calls for it and he needs something to break a fat grass, you can do that. You can do whatever it wants. So that's definitely very solid. Got access to Scald Vision, and I think that's very important. I personally will not draft an electric type if it has no way of touching the ground. I feel like they're dead weight otherwise, and require you to play a lot more aggressively than you really need to. So having access to Scald to make that ground type, think twice about switching in on your Raikou coming in and potentially grabbing that free volt switch momentum on the grass that comes in that takes on its stabs better, is definitely very, very solid. I know SE Amel in chat, I know he absolutely loves Raikou and has been killing it with it in the NCP losers bracket up on his channel, so he can definitely attest how good this thing is. Sub-Calm Mind variants are great. My favorite Raikou set, personally, I don't know how down Incog is, but Subtoxic Raikou is an absolute demon to deal with. I absolutely love Subtoxic Raikou. Pressure Stalling, just like its brother Suicune, able to just really, really wear down and bully fat, more passive teams. Pressure Stalling them, Toxic Stalling them, being an absolute nuisance, and getting all of the YouTube kids to yell at him in the comments in the meantime. But we'll do anything for a dub. Definitely very solid. I love Raikou. I think it's a great mod. I know some people aren't big fans of it, but between Sub-Calm Mind and like Specs and Life Orb and Subtoxic, or even just Calm Mind 3 attacks like Shadow Ball or something like that, it's a great mon. I really do like Raikou. So, and again, if it's a great speech here, that 115 plus is needed in draft, in my personal opinion. Rotom Wash. What do you think about Rotom?
Rotom Wash is like one of those mons you can basically take, slap it on a team, and it will do something. Like electric water type. It's like you said, one of the electric types that can actually touch a ground type really good. It has a lot of support options like Screens, Defog, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, T-Wave, Pain Split, and all the other shit. It gets Defog as well, I think I said that. Wall Switch and Hydro Bomb are amazing moves on this thing, and for whatever reason they decided, oh yeah, just give Rotom Nasty Blood, cause that's gonna be fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it turns out not to be that fine, but Rotom is now not only a defensive god Pokemon, but it's also a pretty good offensive Pokemon, which is super amazing in my opinion.
Oh yeah, and it fits really well with this team. Fits really well with defensively with Celesteela, and then baits in every grass type in the world for Reshiram to absolutely come in and bully and nuke. And I think that's really really important when you have Reshiram, is finding that opportunity to get in freely. And Rotom does that well, because honestly the only thing that really takes on Rotom's stabs well are going to be dragons and grasses. And Reshiram bullies both of those. And Celesteela bullies both of those, so definitely very solid. Rotom's going to be an absolute nuisance with these two alongside it. Speaking of Rotom, we got Rotom Heat with Jesse 504, kind of thinking the same kind of thing. Really breaks down those fast steals that Solgaleo doesn't. Can pressure waters offensively, doesn't switch into them very well, obviously because of the dual fire typing, or the electric fire typing, not dual fire. It can't be two fire types at the same time. But definitely a very, very solid mon. With boots this gen, not having to worry about that rock weakness is very, very nice. Just being able to volt switch freely, throw off overheats, throw off will-o-wisps and thunder waves and toxics and things like that. Forming a really nice momentum core with Tornadus as well. And yeah, just a very solid mon overall. He needs to find that water pivot, but he has a Pokemon that at least breaks down those waters at this point, which is definitely very, very nice and solid with Solgaleo, and also breaks down those fat steals to where if you want to run Banded Solgaleo, you're not as pressured to predict and click CC or Flare Blitz or Earthquake. You can just click your stabs, which is nice. Rotom is a water resistant. J-Bear, I'm trying to be nice to you, man. I don't know what you're doing this for. Go ahead and yeah, but that's gonna be Rotom. Let me go ahead and
I forgot it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good. I've done it like 8 times. I've forgotten. Where's my thing? Boom. On to the next pick, which is Heatran. I said I was going to have something to break down those fat steals, and that's going to be Heatran. I love this Pokemon. Again, it's another one I just recently had at NCP Summer Slam. And it was great. This thing's really scary offensively. Access to Eruption this gen without being locked into a quiet nature, so Scarf and Specs are terrifying. It's a great rocker, which I didn't have up to this point. It gives me my Steel type to form that Dragon Fairy Steel core, hopefully soon, which is really nice. It obviously has access to things like Magma Storm and Taunt and Earth Power for great coverage overall. And kind of forming that.
If you're ever gonna hit those.
Yeah, if I hit them. That is 100% true. If I hit them, it's a great stall breaker, and it's great at really wearing down a lot of things that Kyurem doesn't appreciate. And I have Rillaboom to really break down those waters that want to switch and kind of annoy Heatran. But again, and Kyurem, again, can bully most waters, which is really, really solid. So Heatran plus Rillaboom is really great. Obviously, also mitigating that ground weakness a little bit with weakening Earthquakes and Bulldozes and things like that want to come out on my Heatran. Definitely very, very solid here with this team. And I'm very, very excited to use it for sure. And again, gives me that rocker, gives me a ton. So technically, Heatran will still be locked in a quiet, but with Mint, it changes the effect of the nature of the nature itself. That's true. That's true. For sure. But yeah. Next up, we have Zarude. Do you want to tell people about Zarude?
First thing I can say about this is the momentum does not stop here. Like, that's not a U-turn mon. And I don't think it will stop anytime soon. Zarude might not be, like, that good of a grass type or dark type, but the combination or the overall package of this mon is amazing. Like, you don't get knockoff. That's okay. That's a shame for a dark type, but you get Darkest Lariat, which is amazing. You can run like Scarf or Bandit on this thing because it has a pretty good speed at 105. You can run U-turn. It gets this signature move Jungle Healing, which allows it to be a good setup sweeper in my opinion, because it can get rid of status conditions and heals himself for 25%. Combined with a bulk up, it's actually pretty amazing. And
great stall breaker.
Yeah, great stall breaker. It gets Taunt, if I remember that correctly. It should get at least. It's a dark type. And yeah. It's like a good overall package with its speed, with its bulk. 4-time weak to U-turn is kinda not cool, but it's bulky enough to take like 1 or 2 maybe.
And breaks down those waters that his team doesn't necessarily like super appreciate. With Victini, it forms another great momentum core. With these 3 Pokemon all getting U-turn, definitely very solid for sure.
I agree.
Boom! Next up, we have regular Kyurem.
Look, it's my favorite dragon type in the game. Yeah. For those who watched my NCP run, you all know I love this thing. Pressure stalling is one of my favorites to do. Having freeze dry on a mon is amazing. Like, Kyurem is one of those mons you really do worry about when you see it on the team, because switching into this thing most of the times is pretty awkward to do. Sub-roost sets are paid for everyone, and there's a lot of things you can do with this thing. Like, you don't need to run like full specially offensive or defensive, or it gets Dragon Dance. It can be physically offensive. It gets roost still. Boots are also amazing for this thing because it's an ice type and it would be weak to rocks, but normally you will find an item you will fit better on this thing, and it's just an amazing one in my opinion. I love it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And like you said with the pressure stalling, it's not only on those specially offensive sets. I saw Ammo one time, a good 6-7 months ago. I don't know, a while ago. It's within the last like year or so. He ran a sub DD Roost Mono Icicle Spear Kyurem, and PP stalled the floor. Just said nope. I simply don't care about your Moonblast. And PP stalled it, set up to +6 and won the game, which is definitely very solid. So there's plenty of things that a creative builder can do with Kyurem. I love this thing. I think it's so good in draft. I thought it was great in Gen 7, where people were pricing in like low tier 2, high tier 3, and then it got freeze dry, and people were like, wait a minute, is this mon good? It was always good, and now it's even better. Yeah, I remember you doing that to someone. It might have been to George or something like that. I think it was Evo 2 seasons ago. It's whenever you had an Amel. It's whenever you had it. You definitely did that though, because I explicitly remember like, oh damn, that was mean. Like that was brutal. This is supposed to be something that beats it. Like it was definitely tough to watch whoever you were playing, I felt bad for sure. Next up, we have Zapdos with Toad's team. His third tier 1, he's the only guy I think that will have 3 tier 1s, because he's the only one who can get an S tier. Definitely a really, really solid mon. Great with Melmetal too, because it absolutely bullies water types that are going to try and switch in and, you know, Helmet chip down Melmetal. I can come in, can U-turn or Volt Switch. Has Hurricane this gen, so big damage coming out from Zapdos. On opposing teams, which is obviously great. Heat Wave is coverage. It gets agility to potentially sweep. Weather Ball if he's playing weather or decides to, you know, draft or bring manual weather, which I think is definitely a cool option. With Rain Dance giving it that water coverage, which is dope. I wish I got Air Slash like we thought I was going to get for a little bit more reliable flying stab on fatter sets, but not the biggest deal in the world. Subtoxic Zapdos is one of my favorite sets, or just toxic, fat, annoying Zapdos in general is great. It gives him a defogger, and again, gives him that momentum that his team was kind of lacking at this point. So I definitely like Zapdos a lot on Tone's team for sure. Boom, Landorus, Therian, the king. What do you think about Lando?
Speaking of Lando, like the undefeated king of Gen 7 and Gen 6, I think, where he was roaming completely free and wild in OU and every draft league, was like normally a tier round 1, pick 1 pick, and yeah, there wasn't much better you could get besides this thing. And with a nerf of no hidden power anymore, this thing got... Once again, it's time to shine. It gets defog, it gets rocks, it gets setup options, it gets U-turn, more momentum's always good. And...
plenty of setup as well. Plenty of setup.
Yeah, plenty of setup, that is indeed true. The only thing it's kind of missing is a physical flying type move, which kind of did hurt him to lose its C moves, but in the long run, it doesn't really care about those.
One of my absolute favorite mons in draft. I think it's great, and I know John will play really well with it.
I never used it, to be honest. I never used one of those genies.
Oh, it's so good. And like you said, it took a big hit offensively with Z-Moose being gone, so it doesn't have that flying stab to nuke things anymore off that, you know, ridiculous like 145 or 155 attack stat. But in the nerf that it got offensively, it got buffed defensively with no hidden power in the game. Now you can't be like, I don't touch Landorus. Shit, HP Ice for 60%. You know, like now it's just like, I don't touch Landorus. Unfortunate, that sucks. But yeah, great mon. I absolutely love Landorus, and you know that with the Intimidate support that's gonna give for things like Zama. Like, what does a physical attacker do against this team, or like do against his Latios? When he has Zama plus Landorus, it's just absolutely insane. I really do like Lando a lot, and I think it's someone that's absolutely slept on this gen because it got that offensive nerf. People are like, it's not as good offensively, but it's still very good offensively. It just got nerfed a little bit. It's not bad offensively by any stretch of the imagination. You can still U-turn on those grass types for 40% that resist your Earthquake and put them in range later. Like, I remember I was doing mocks for NCP. Really quick side tangent. I was doing mocks for NCP top 8. And I had a Serena as my ground resist. I was like, damn, that's not the greatest thing in the world, but whatever. I was playing Jason in the mock when I was supposed to be playing Shuckle King, and switching was physically defensive Serena, and he brought Choice Band Landorus, and then she did 70% with U-turn. And then I found an opportunity to synthesis up. I'm like, I'm good. And then he clicked Earthquake and did 48%. That's, shit, I'm a grass type. Nice. So definitely still very good offensively. Just a little bit worse. Just a tiny bit worse.
That's true. It's still an amazing mod.
Next up, we have Ferrothorn, which I do like a lot with Tio's team, offering him more hazards, especially for things like Cinderace plus Urshifu, that form a great momentum core that really bully teams and wear them down over time. Having those spikes and those rocks to guarantee chip them down or forcing them into boots to where they're not leftovers is really, really solid. Obviously, a really, really solid defensive pivot as well. Really only caring about fire and fighting types, which he can definitely patch a little bit later on. Everything else, it absolutely sits on. It gives him that water pivot, which the team does not have at this point. It gives him something to reliably check and break down bulky waters, which is obviously very, very solid as well. I definitely like Ferrothorn a lot on T-Row's team here. It pairs really well with his first 2 picks, and again, that spike support is going to be really, really imperative in him winning a lot of games, in my personal opinion. Boom! Skarmory. Yeah, talking about spikes.
Having another amazing spike setter in Skarmory. It really is interesting on this team to say the least, because it's an amazing Fairy Dragon Steel Core. Yes, I do completely agree, but it's not the perfect thing to switch into Ice type moves in my opinion, because normally you want your Steel type to be able to check those Ice type moves for guard jump, but it does not perfectly do this. It does that quite well, but he will fix that later on. I have no questions about that, to be honest. And Skarmory is like, yeah, that's true, and yeah, he will get one. But yeah, what does Skarmory do for your team? It sadly does not get U-turn like Coronite, but it gets spikes, rocks, defog, it has sturdy, iron defense, body press. I could keep going, I think. Weakness policy with weak armor if you really want to be that man.
Oh, and Swords Dance. Yeah, you could be that guy, and I know Ant is definitely that guy. He will try and bring that one time and be like, no, don't do that. And I'll be like, nah, I'm doing it.
But yeah, amazing flying steel type, one of the godfathers of stall, I would say, because you saw that thing on every stall team.
Skarmory.
Skarmory, exactly. And yeah, just an amazing mod in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And again, he just needs that fat water to really deal with, get that good ice resist, and he's fine. So that's definitely very solid. Boom, Slowking Galar, not the water type, but related to a water type in Slowking, I almost said Kanto, Johto Slowking, I guess is what you would say, Johtoian Slowking, but definitely a really, really cool mod. It fits with his logo color scheme so well too, so that's definitely a plus side as well. Bullies Fat Grasses. Skarmory already deals with them pretty decently well, but if they have, you know, some kind of random coverage move that hits Skarmory on the especially defensive side, it could be annoying. Slowking says, no, 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 I do not care. I bully you. There's absolutely, it has absolutely phenomenal coverage. Assault Vest is great. Throwing out big future sights and sludge bombs and fire blasts and scalds and things like that is really solid. Or Calm Minds or like nasty plot type sets with Slack Off could definitely be great with Allure Barrier, things like that. This is a Pokemon that I've definitely in my career thought like, it's definitely a little bit overrated in a lot of Draft League players' eyes, but it's still so good if it's not taken in like round 2, early round 2. Like a lot of people tend to take it, but I think in a spot like this, round 4, I think it's definitely a very, very appropriate time to try and take Slowking. And you know, it really fits his team well. I like Slowking plus Guard Chomp a lot, and it's just such a great pivot to kind of scout and see what your opponent wants to do and get out of there and kind of go from there. So I definitely like Slowking a lot on this team. Tapu Fini for T-Row.
Speaking of water type you wanted to see for him, there we have one.
There it is.
And I couldn't think of any better water type than this thing for this team to fit. Like, normally what you want to do is like burn the Urshifu or get some sort of status on those both offensive mons or whatever. But you can't do that, because we have the beautiful Misty Terrain now. Tapu Fini might not have any recovery besides Leftovers recovery and Draining Kiss, but it does not need that because it's so amazingly bulky. You really do not need that. And I think I never used this thing, I don't like it personally, but it gets so many good moves. Nature's Madness is amazing for a wall like that. Just taking 50% off your opponent's HP is big. You have set up options
too.
Yeah, Taunt, like an amazing stall breaker. You have Defog if you need to use it, but you get rid of your Misty Terrain. So it's there, but it's not really getting used all that often. You have set up Calm Mind, Iron Defense, Draining Kiss, which is a really popular set. You have Store Power, I think they gave it as well. Like, there's a lot of things this thing can do. Or it's just gonna be a bulky menace and you need to find your way of breaking this thing when there's a Ferrothorn in the back, and this will be fun.
Pharaoh plus Fini is great. It's such a good defensive core. Very solid, especially if you can grab a solid Wish Passer later.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all we need to say about beautiful Fini.
Oh, for sure. Next up is Galar Wheezing from John, grabbing his fairy, completing his fairy dragon steel core, also grabbing a potential grounded poison, which is really nice. Grabbing another fighting resist for Zama, which is definitely very smart when the other ones are Landers, which is liable to get ice punched, or Latios, which is liable to get knocked off. Wheezing checks 99% of fightings really well. 3 great abilities, and especially 2 phenomenal ones in neutralizing gas and and Levitate, taking away its ground weakness, but it also has access. Oops, I accidentally went backwards because I was trying to fix the crop on the thing. There we go, I fixed it. But obviously also has access to Misty Surge, which can definitely be solid in some potential matchups with some potential Misty Seed type of shenanigans, I guess you could say. So definitely very solid mon. Gives them a defogger that doesn't hate running defog. It has fire coverage for itself, which is definitely very solid. Just a great overall defensive pivot. John really needs some Wish Pass right now at this point in time with Zama plus Weezing, which don't have great reliable recovery, though Zama can rest, Weezing can pain split. They don't really have the best recovery in the world, so it'd definitely be smart of him to grab some of that. But other than that, I do like the Weezing pick a lot. Definitely makes a lot of sense in this team. Urshifu Rapid Strike for Tone.
Oh, I've been using this mon recently. I got it in my RDL run, and it's a really, really fun mon to use. I used Urshifu Single Strike a lot of times, but this thing is amazing as well. Like, its only big problem is a Rocky Helmet, but since they gave us protective pets this gen, it's not too big of a problem. Once you figure out who's that mon that holds the Rocky Helmet, which you can by just pivoting with U-turn or just hitting close combat, you know how to play around it, and then you can get yourself in a situation where you can just play with it. It's just like the other Urshifu. It gets like a super strong secondary move besides close combat. In this case, it's Searching Strikes, hits 3 times, crits all 3 times, which is super fun in my opinion. And yeah, you can bulk up, you can substitute leftovers, you can be more of a bulky set because it's still a water type and it does not have too bad of defenses. But besides that, you have overall a good fighting type, a good water type, a good wall breaker, and an amazing mon to use.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I've seen Rush Talkers before, which I think is really funny. But I've definitely seen it before to keep itself healthy and like check things like a Darmanitan and things like that. So it's definitely like not, a Milotic or a Vaporeon, but it's still serviceable for sure.
It gets Scald. That's the beginning.
Oh, does it really get Scald? That's hella funny. I actually did not know that. Oh, dang. Next up is Rotomo, which is going to be your next pick. You want to talk about Rotom?
Yeah. Like, till this point, I have never used the Rotom in my life. Besides normal Rotom.
Oh, wow.
That's something different. And I was talking to Jerry about his team, and he was like, you need a Rotom here. Get a Rotom. I don't know why get a Rotom. And I'm like, okay, I can pick up Rotomo. I don't have a grass type to that point. And he was like, yeah, okay, that will work. Rotomo is one of those another electric types you talked about that also can hit ground types, which is super amazing. It might be a Leaf Stone, which is not as perfect as Hydro Pump, but it's still an amazing move. Nessie Blood is still amazing on this thing. Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp screens are a thing as well, and it gives me more of a momentum core going on. Like Genesect, Clefable, Rotom. I have a lot of momentum going here, and this helps me with. It helped me with one weakness I had, but I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe
it helps with bulky waters. I think it's with waters. It gives you a great water pivot. I mean, you have Kyurem as well, but still very solid, nonetheless.
Yeah. It definitely helps me to get into my Kyurem more often than I should be able
Kyurem and your Genesect, yeah, potentially too. Like, it's definitely very, very solid. Oh, I totally forgot the exclamation point, Lucas. That was clutch. Thank you, Q. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, check out Lucas. Alright, next. We got Corviknight. More momentum mid. Chill, man. Like, not everything has to click U-turn, or I guess he doesn't even have a Volt Switch mod. It's just all U-turn. Corvy's great, though. Such a phenomenal pivot. Such a great defogger for things like Victini that don't always want to run boots. So definitely makes a lot of sense. This Pokemon is so annoying and difficult to try and knock out. It gives him a ground immunity, which is really, really nice. He does really, really desperately want that fat water. So I think that might be something he wants to look into getting soon from this point onwards. But exclamation point Owen. Unfortunately, there is no exclamation point Owen because we're already here. And I do think that would be really funny to send people. Actually, I could go like this. Sub. I think that's one of them. Best command. there unfortunately is none. But definitely go check out Mid, who's picking right now. And yeah, I do like the Corviknight pick a lot, giving him a great defogger, which I think is really, really important for this team. Another great, solid, bulky, slow pivot, which is great. And potential sweeper on its own with Iron Defense, or especially bulk up and body press and Brave Bird and Iron Head and stuff like that, gives him that fairy resist that he actually does not have up to this point as well. So definitely fits his team very solid. Definitely a bit of a steep price for it, but it makes sense a lot as long as he grabs that water here. soon.
I saw Jack run a Scarf Corviknight. I've seen it all.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen Scarf Corvi too. It's definitely, again, very versatile mon, and sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
That is true. And
this is an S tier draft, I assume. It is indeed a S tier draft, but next up is mine. My next pick.
Oh, it's yours. Okay.
Yeah, but next up is my next pick was Scolipede. And Scolipede is really, really solid on this team, in my personal opinion. It gives me great spikes. It gives me something to bully bulky waters as well. Bully bulky grasses as well. And Heatran really kind of breaks down everything that Scully hates and doesn't appreciate. Now, I am kind of nerfing my own Earthquakes on potential, Swords Dancing type sets. But again, terrain isn't always up. So that's not the biggest deal in the world. And I really, really wanted a good, fast spiker to spike up for Kyurem and Heatran and Rillaboom to really bully them as I just throw off big hits or a U-turn with Rillaboom, things like that, as well as giving them my grounded poison and giving them the really, really bully fat fairies and things like that for Kyurem, which is one of the few potential checks depending on the fairy. But Scolipede beats all of those potential checks obviously very, very well. And even if terrain is up and I want to hit that ground or that steel type or something like that, I do get access to superpower, which is definitely another option as well. And it gives me spikes and T-spikes. And like Emil said, the absolute best Urshifu Rapid Strike answer. I ran Rocky Helmet Scolipede. I think it was NCB Season 4 last time I had Scolipede. And it was definitely a pretty dope check for sure. I do love Scolipede, though, one of my favorite mons to use. And last time I used it, like I said, I won a championship. So you never know. We'll see. It could happen. Next is Crocodile. You want to talk about Crook?
Crocodile. Another one of those amazing ground types you basically never see go undrafted. A beautiful ground dark type with Intimidate or Moxie, depending on what you want to go for. And Anchor Point, which actually got some usage this generations with those Urshus running around. And yeah, it can be both like a defensive one, it can be an offensive one, as with a Choice Scarf. It can give you rocks, it gives you knockoff, it gives you taunt. It gets, I think, Scale Shot. I think they gave it something like that. Yeah, Scale Shot is it.
It does, so it can sweep with that, especially with Moxie, for sure.
Yeah. Bulk Up Scale Shot with Moxie is like
close
really
combat.
painful to deal with. Oh, true, they gave it close combat as well, because that wasn't enough. And yeah, it's just one of those amazing types you always see drafted, and you always think to yourself, man, at someday I should really draft a Crocodile, but you never end up doing it. Because the people who always draft Crocodile get to Crocodile.
Oh yeah, and it gives them a dark type as well, which is really important. Having a dark type is obviously really important in draft league settings, so getting that and securing that and kind of roll compressing is always really, really nice. Another proud member of the winning team in ulti. Yeah, it's a great mon. I really do like Crocodile a lot. Let me just see 504. There he is. Alright. But definitely a solid pick by Jesse. Next up, Silvally, the jack of all trades, master of none. Very solid Pokemon. I like this mon a lot. I really do like Silvally. I know some people are kind of meh on it just because mediocre stats, not holding an item, things like that. But the ability to be any type in any matchup is really, really great and really helps you roll compress and kind of like go, man, I didn't draft a good answer for X Pokemon. Good thing I have Silvally Fire or Silvally Dark or something like that. Really, really solid mon. Parting Shot and U-turn for momentum, defog. It gets Swords Dance and Flame Charge potentially set up and sweep. Great special coverage as well. Again, really not absolutely exemplary at anything, but really solid at a lot of different things, which is then, again, definitely very, very important. I think Silvally is definitely great. Gives him a solid speed tier as well. No, it's around Reshiram, so not the best, and I think that's one thing that Trexor does need to work on from this point onwards, is his speed tiers are kind of bleh, not the best. Very clumpy, and pretty darn slow, but if he can mitigate that, his team's definitely shaping up pretty well. Especially those top 3 picks are very solid together, so I like the Silvally pick a lot. Boom! Slowbro for Incog. What do you think about Slowbro?
Oh, you gotta love to see the next Slowbro. Interesting to see it go that late in the draft, in my opinion, because Slowbro is one of the best water types there is, in my opinion. Teleport and Regenerator are phenomenal, especially paired up with Heavy Duty Boots, because this thing like on Heavy Duty Boots, because this little bit of entry chip might be enough to kill it, but nope, not anymore.
Nope.
It gets Future Sight, which is amazing for him. Future Sight, teleporting out, gives you a lot of momentum. Scalding, it can set up on you, it can stall you, it can do a lot of shit. And it's just so bulky while doing all of this that I don't have much to say about this thing besides it's an amazing pick.
Oh,
and
yeah.
especially with this team combination, it really does work well, because those ice types that would hit Landorus don't really do much anymore, and this thing can take ground types hit if you don't want to switch in your Landorus on it offensively. You can just switch this thing into a ground type hit, and yeah.
Transactions should be here too, yes, Emil. Because as long as they're active week 1. Yeah, as long as they're active week 1, we did transactions to count. If they weren't active week 1, then they will not be here. But yeah, like you said, with Landorus, this thing is a great ice resist, and it takes pressure off of Mew and being that fat offensive, or being that fat psychic to check offensive fightings, which is definitely again dope. Again, it kind of clashes with Mew a little bit in that sense, but also ensures that Mew can do other things if it really wants to. You're not forced into running fat, annoying defensive Mew if you don't want to. Or again, offensive bro sets are definitely the truth, man. I've seen fat nasty plot sets, which I got this gen, do really well. I've seen Calm Mind obviously do really well. I've seen OTR do really well. Offensive Trick Room with like a Life Orb, Trick Room 3 attacks, because then you switch out and you set it up again, which is definitely very solid. So I like that a lot.
That's true.
Next up is Aerodactyl from Emil here. Aero's definitely very solid. It gives him that speed that we were talking about earlier. His team is so freaking slow up to this point. So grabbing Aerodactyl was definitely smart. And it gives him another rocker outside of Necro. Necro doesn't want to run rocks all the time, so that's definitely smart. It got access to Dragon Dance and Dual Beam this gen, so more reliable stab and a better way to boost than Hone Claws, in my personal opinion, unless you're really scared of missing, or not scared of missing in this chat here. Not at all, and I know Emil isn't for sure, but definitely a very solid mon. It gets taunt as well, so it's a great stall breaker in that sense, or just great fast taunt in general, preventing setup, preventing shenanigans, preventing, maybe wishes or roosts or things like that, which is great. Something to really break through bulky flying types really well. Something to break through fat fire types that Scizor doesn't appreciate on a U-turn. Scizor gets out, gets into Aerodactyl, either gets up rocks or sets up, or just throws off a big stone edge or rock slide, which is definitely, again, very solid. Like I said, gives him that good speed tier. Just a great overall pick. A bit early for Aero, but wanted speed. No, that's completely fair. Your team was incredibly slow, so I definitely understand securing something really fast. You need to bridge that gap now between Giratina and Aero, but it's a start. We at least have that elite speed tier, and there's definitely more to fill out in the middle area, opposed to how many mons really fit that elite speed tier, which is
I think that Aerodactyl is one of the best leads in this format, in my opinion, because Taunt, Rocks, Rock Tomb, it gets a lot it can do.
Oh yeah.
To prevent rocks getting up or getting rocks up. But speaking of a rock type, we have one of the most scariest rock types alive. Fucking Terrakion. That's amazing. Me as an OU player, I always had those mons in OU where like, oh yeah, great, this thing, now I need to sacrifice something. And people normally think of Urshifu, Draco Wish, Gala the Maniton, but no one ever talks about this thing. What do you want to switch into a Banded Terrakion? Because it basically hits everything with Close Combat Stone Edge. This is no fun. This thing, I used it in NCP, and I really need to say that I love this thing. The way it plays, the speed it has, the bulk it has, it might not be the best, but it's still enough. You can switch this thing on knockoffs and get even stronger. There's a lot wrong with this thing, and a lot of great things going right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Great,
and you won't find many switches into it.
Again, it fits really well with that Magearna, man. He full switches out with his Magearna on that steel type coming in, then he goes into Terrakion and he close combat. Like you said, the stab combination is also crazy. So I definitely really like that Terrakion pick. See, he messed up. He grabbed Spectre on purpose. He said, I want this Pokemon. Don't know why, but he did. But then his other picks have been phenomenal so far, so he made up for it. Next up is Vikavolt. I think we might have accidentally messed up one. Wait, did we get out of order? Uh-oh, hold on one sec. Rain check, we gotta fix something real quick.
Did we go out of order?
I think so, because
I put them in the way they were in the orders, in the
draft chat? Deary's wheel. I'm dumb. Deary's freaking wheel. I'm so dumb. I was so scared. I was like, wait a minute, no!
Okay, I was like,
no, you're good.
This was the one I was confused about as well.
So
Okay.
next up we have Vikavolt. D-Ray got webs for his Magearna, which definitely makes sense. Makes things like Specs a lot more viable to where he doesn't have to shift gear up. He can Calm Mind and outspeed things now, which is really, really cool. He isn't forced in that shift gear type of role. Vikavolt's also just a great mon. Forms even more momentum for his team with things like Hydra, which is definitely very, very solid. He can Volt Switch around on a lot of things. It bullies bulky waters, which he didn't really have anything that like outright bullied them. He had ways of breaking them down and beating them, obviously. He didn't just like auto lose to any bulky water, but now he has a certified way of saying like, nope, your bulky water is dying or switching. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So Vikavolt's definitely very solid on his team. I like the webs option, and it's definitely a great value pick in tier 4 here. So I do really, really like the Vikavolt here. Definitely makes a lot of sense. Again, it's just a spectre, man. That's it. Next up, we have Toxicity. I'm gonna go check on why my dogs are barking if you want to talk about Toxicity for Amel.
Alright, perfect. So, Toxicity, one of my personal favorite electric types. Toxicity is an amazing special ward breaker. Like, the ability that boosts his already pretty strong sound type moves like Boom Burst and Overdrive, it's what it's called, or Overkill. I always name it Overkill, for whatever reason. It boosts those moves even further. This makes it really dangerous. Like, normally, yeah, you can switch in a ground type, but I saw Hippos getting shredded by this thing. And then Powdon getting just dropped to one Boom Burst. It's no fun for your opponent if they realize, oh, yikes, there goes my switch into this thing. Yeah, the fact that Boom Burst gets basically even more boosted for maybe a Specs or like a
Come on, Hank. Come on.
other item, Throat Spray. You can run like a 5th gear Throat Spray on this thing. There's a lot of things it could do, and it does all of them pretty well. And I just like it as a mon. Volt Switch, so there's a little Volta course forming with Scissor and Toxtree. So, yeah,
definitely very solid. It gives him something, again, like D-Ray, to really bully fat waters, which he doesn't have yet.
Yeah.
Okay, boom! Oh, I went too far. I clicked it 2 times, trying to be cool. Okay, cool. We got Whimsicott next, giving Incog that thing to, again, kind of bully a bulky water a little bit more. Hits that same speed tier as Raikou, so again, kind of clumpy speed tier wise, but it gives him a fairy type as well, which he didn't have up to this point. Gives him speed control with Tailwind and Sunspore, Encore, and I believe Taunt, right? Whimsicott against Taunt, right?
Yeah, it does get
Prankster Taunt. That's what I thought. I'd been very surprised otherwise. But this thing can U-turn around as well, which is definitely very solid. Just gives him that solid fairy, makes it to teams can't spam dragon moves freely against him like they could up to this point. Needs that steel type soon as well, but at least this is definitely a good start in getting that fairy, which is definitely nice. And in my opinion, dragon isn't needed in the fairy dragon steel core, but that fairy and that steel are definitely needed, so we got one of those, which again, very smart. So I do like Whimsicott here a lot for sure. Next up, Decidueye. What do we think about Decidueye?
That's like a mon I personally don't like as much if I need to decide between those 2 mons. Like, when you're looking at ghost grass types with hazard removal, you have like you can choose between Decidueye and Dalmise. And personally, I'm more of a Dalmise fan, but that does not have to do anything here. It does really fit his team, I need to say that, because he can it gives him hazard removal, another defogger, yes. It gives him momentum, yes. It gives him Spirit Shackle, a trapping move, which is really cool, which could really help him out in a lot of scenarios. Roost on this thing, U-turn, Sword Stance, there's a lot this thing can do. But overall, I think it was a bit early for picking it up, but it might just be me. But there's a lot of good things it can do.
Yeah.
It gets Sucker Punch as well on the Sword Stance.
Sucker Punch, Shadow Sneak, gets Nasty Plot. Definitely a very solid bond. It doesn't necessarily, I get what you mean. It doesn't necessarily like fit his team, but it also doesn't not fit his team. And he does need a grass eventually. Maybe he just didn't like the ones that were left over from here, or didn't want to spend a lot of money on like a tier 1 or 2-1. So
That's
that makes sense to an extent. And I love me some Decky Dewey. Definitely a very solid bond for sure still. Mienshao next. A little bit of a regen core here for Jesse 504. Definitely a solid speed tier form as well. Something around that 100 marker, at least faster than 100, which is nice. Solgaleo was at 97. Mienshow's at 105, so he has those two kind of sandwiching those base 100s, kind of keeping them at bay, which is definitely very, very nice and solid. Like I said, it does have access to Regenerate and Close Combat this gen, which made it a little bit more reliable, but you can also throw off Reckless High Jump Kicks, throw off Big Stone Edges for flying types, you turn around, you can bulk up, you can Swords Dance, you can even Calm Mind for some reason you decide that's a good idea. But definitely a very solid model overall. Very good pivot, great Scarfer, great breaker as well with a Life Orb. Life Orb regen, even if it's not like Reckless High Jump Kick, Life Orb regen is just absolutely ridiculous and annoying to deal with, so I definitely like the Mienshao here a lot. My turn. Swampert. I grabbed a ground type, and I grabbed a water, and I grabbed a rocker. I wanted to roll compressed a little bit, because up to this point I was kind of drafting a lot of fun mons, and they did fit certain roles, but I was kind of missing out on some really important ones, and being my water and my ground, and Swampert gives me both of those, and it really, really appreciates that residual recovery from grassy terrain that Rillaboom offers my team, which is obviously great. It gives me a fire resist, which that isn't Heatran, and a lot of fires do get ground coverage, so I think that's very, very nice and very important. I have plenty of grass resist on this team. Every other Pokemon on my team actually resists grass, so have fun killing Swampert or getting that grass move off on Swampert, as long as I'm not an absolute idiot, which I am sometimes, but as long as I'm not an absolute idiot, shouldn't be letting it take too many of those unless I'm sacking it off. Like I said, really reliable rocker, flip turn for great momentum purposes. It can be physical and special. It can be offensive. It can be bulk up. Bulk up Swampert is the truth, and I hope I get to bring that 1 or 2 times this season and kind of show that that side of Swampert off a little bit. But this is a Gen 3 OU GOAT, DPP OU GOAT, and even Gen 8 OU GOAT. I don't know if it's still an OU, but I know it was a while ago.
It still is.
It is? That's awesome. My favorite starter of all time, too. So definitely cool to get to draft. I haven't drafted in like, a good year and a half, 2 years at this point. So I'm very excited to use Swampert, and I think it fits really well on my team, especially when I eventually grab that Wish Passer. And maybe one that I'm kind of known for drafting. It'll definitely be very annoying and difficult to kill. From one water ground to the next, Seismitoad.
Let's go. The second one of the bunch. Still not my favorite of the water grounds, as most people know, but Seismitoad is amazing. It gives you what two of the other water grounds don't give you, Stealth Rocks. It gives you knockoff, which is super amazing for a mon like that. It gets toxic. It got toxic in the early stage of the game. I know, no, all of the 3 get toxic, 4 gets toxic, but yeah. This thing is one of those mons where you can either run it like super defensive, or you can be cheeky and try to sneak in like a Rain Dance on it and abuse it as a Swift Swim mon.
Oh yeah.
And just start killing, which could also work pretty well, because it is not weak. And yeah, Seismitoad is amazing. Like, you can run Water Absorb, which helps his team, because water was pretty spammable on him, because he didn't resist it all too much. I know there's Zarud and a Naganadel, but those don't want to take all the special moves. It does a lot for him in other scenarios like rocks, like I said already. It has some speed control with Icy Wind and Bulldoze. There's a lot of things you can do with it, and I really dig it.
Oh yeah, for
also,
sure.
it gets Power Whip for the other water grounds.
Exactly. It beats pretty much all of them one-on-one, which is pretty cool. And again, gives him rocks, which he didn't have up to this point, and that's pretty darn important. I know Mid actually wanted Swampert too, so that's something else. But he was not happy with me that I stole that from him. But I sniped a few people this draft, which is fun, because usually it's the other way around, and I get sniped a ton. And this draft was like the complete opposite. Next up is Incineroar, though, which is going to be your round 5 pick. You want to talk about Incineroar?
It would be cool if I picked the 3rd water ground type right now, but nah,
I know.
That wouldn't be that. That wouldn't be me. Incineroar. It's a pretty amazing pivot, in my opinion. Parrying Shot and Intimidate does put things at -2 the attack most of the times if you execute it correct. It gets knockoff. It has a pretty high attack stat and does some damage if you want to do damage with it. There are some offensive that you can run. Heavy Duty Boots help this thing a lot, pivoting around. And it's a Dark type. Like you said, every good team needs a Dark type nowadays. Because of those pesky Ghost types running around.
No.
Besides that, it gives me a Fire type on my Fire Water Grass core. And the mon I kinda like went into using more lately with BBL. And I really think I like it. I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah, no, I really like Incineroar. Something I think is slept is people see bulk upsets a lot. I think Sword Stance Incineroar is the truth in a lot of matchups. Definitely really solid.
I agree.
Third, Lucas is disrespecting Quag and Cash Money. I think you're mistaking Lucas. I think Lucas is saying that Quag is the best one, and then probably I'm assuming Swampert was the other one. Yeah.
I forgot about which guest to be completely honest. I thought about Gastrodon.
Yeah, I also was thinking about Gastrodon even when he said Cash Money. I'll be honest, I was like, this is an interesting name for Gastrodon, but I'm not gonna make fun of you for your nicknames, at least on stream, maybe after. Next up is Gardevoir, giving Tone his Fairy type, which is definitely, again, very important. Having that Fairy is nice. That plus Melmetal and Dragapult forming that Fairy Dragon Steel core gives him a Psychic type. Potential setup sweeper, but great Scarfer, great Specs user, potentially Life Orb, and can be just an overall general nuisance. I think Healing Wish is really important for a team like this. When you have things like Melmetal and Dragapult, Healing Wish can be really, really clutch. It also gets access to Wish, but with its really frail physical bulk, it's not the most reliable Wish Passer, but when you have something like Melmetal that has lots of physical bulk, and you wish as the physical attacker comes in, you can pass the Melmetal pretty freely, depending on what said physical attacker is. Obviously, with Melmetal resisting most of the ones that are going to go after Gardevoir, unless they're like a really strong ground type. Excuse me. But you also have things like Zapdos that can do the same thing. So definitely a very solid pick here for Tone. And then we have Metagross for John Jr. next. What do you think about Metagross?
Metagross in this team combination is pretty interesting, in my opinion. It gives you another Psychic type and a Steel type, which is not the perfect thing, because your other Psychic type is also Latias, which is part of your Fairy Dragon Steel core, and this makes like clicking Shadow Ball incredibly easy on you. But knowing John, this won't be a problem for him. Metagross has a lot he brings to the table. He gives him rocks, which he didn't have before. No, there's a Landorty. Never mind. There were rocks on the field.
There was a very good rocker. Yeah.
I never said anything. But yeah, Metagross is super bulky. It has a wide coverage of moves. It gets some setup moves which are really, really good. And the funny thing is, it can be run physical and special. I saw special Metagrosses do work.
I saw Meteor Beam before. I've seen Meteor Beam before.
Yeah. And they just work sometimes. Those are sets you maybe not see coming, maybe switch in a physical wall on this thing and it then hits you with a Meteor Beam for no reason at all. And you'll be like, that's kind of bad for me.
Nah, now I lose kind of thing. Yeah, no, I do agree. This pick was definitely a little odd. And something I know about John is he's a great player, he's a great builder, but he very much so drafts very similar things a lot, and when he gets in, he kind of pigeonholes himself into using similar mons, even if they don't necessarily fit the team comp. And Metagross, I wouldn't say Metagross is bad with having Latios. I've definitely drafted like Metagross plus another high tier offensive Psychic. Not the worst thing in the world, but that, and then also having Zama as a Steel type makes me go, I don't know. We could have optimized and gotten a better pick instead of Metagross here. But again, it's overall just a great Pokemon. My second favorite Pokemon of all time, design-wise. That mentioned Metagross, if you couldn't, and then my favorite starter is Swampert, if you couldn't tell what my first gen was. But definitely a very solid mon overall, regardless of it necessarily fitting the team comp, and I'm sure John will be able to kind of overcome it. And that's one of the most important things in draft that I think is really important for other people to realize is if you don't have a team that you're comfortable with and a team composition that you're comfortable with, regardless of how good it is, you're probably going to suck with it. I feel like I had good teams in NCP Season 5. I didn't like my team, wasn't very comfortable with it, and I absolutely shit the bed. And then I've had really pretty god-awful teams and done really well with them because, again, I like them. So it's kind of a matter of that, which I think is important to note in draft. Xurkitree! This is the most base round 5 pick ever. I think T-Row is like a big Xurkitree stan, and I am too. I love Xurkitree. Round 5 Xurkitree is some psychopath shit though, and I love it. I am so here for it. Really fun mon, and I think a lot of people think it's like god awful now because I accidentally played. I'm the one talking. And you get 2 plugs for taking round 5 Xurk. Really, really sick mon though. I actually like it. It was on my NCP Season 4 championship team, and a lot of people really don't like Xurkitree now that it lost Tail Glow, but honest to God, it doesn't need it most of the time, man. That thing is too damn strong. It has coverage for ground types and Energy Ball and Grass Knot, which is great. Psychic can run Blunder Policy, Hypnosis type sets to cheese through teams. It can still Calm Mind, which is also really cool. Again, really early drafting this early of a circuitry, but it's probably my favorite round 5 pick of all time. This in round 5 Licky is always a good time. But that's something that I do that I probably shouldn't do. And everybody has their round 5 quirks, and this is T-Rose. He said round 5 circuitry, you can't stop me. Nobody's gonna snipe me of Zerk. He really wanted to talk, so it was like I need an electric type shit. And then he drafted Zerk. That's that's fair, man. You gotta make sure you don't get sniped again. But definitely still a solid mon, regardless of it getting nerfed pretty heavy this gen. I still think it's great, and I think it's I think it's a really fun mon too, and I really hope it does well. So we can see round 5 Circuitry grab like a tier 3 MVP. I think that'd be sick. Milotic, he grabbed a water type. What do you think about Milotic on Ant's team?
Milotic is one of those mons you see it in a team prep and you be like, oh no, why did I sign up for this? I don't want to face this. Because for no reason it is so bulky. It cannot get toxic because it's 90% of the time gonna run a flame up and gonna burn itself to get its marble scale activated. It has recover, it has flip turn, haze, mirror code, it can be run assault wested if you really want to. There's pre-record? No, it's not pre-record.
Yeah, no, I was typing in the chat. You're good. You're good.
Okay. No, there's a lot of things this one can do. It's amazing to stall down teams, slow down teams, and you're not gonna break this thing without a good preparation around it.
Oh yeah. He is augmenting that electric weakness a little bit with Coco, but obviously he has something like Garchomp that pivots into it well, and a grass type later, an AV Slowking, and he's fine.
It's okay, you can switch in things like Cinderace and Heal on Hippowdon into Milotic.
Oh, I don't want to talk to you. I had Milo in NCP Season 4, and just J-Bear doesn't know what a water resist is. Man. He's fun. One of my favorite videos ever is Josh's video titles ever was his BBL game where he switched in Groudon onto a bunch of water moves. I think it was when he was AV to switch into fucking Palkia and not get too KO'd. And the title was Jesse 504's Water Resist. But definitely a very solid mon though. I like Milo a lot. It gets momentum too this gen with Flip Turn, which I think is really, really sick.
Yep.
Talonflame, got a little bit of speed on top of the Coco, so very fast team, which is obviously very solid. Gives them to, again, really bully those fat grasses. He does have Skarm already, but Skarm, sometimes it's not going to run Brave Bird, to be completely honest. It's going to run Mono Body Pressure, even no attacking moves, depending on the matchup. Is the stream local? I'm having to name the team. It's kind of tiny at the bottom, and I know some of the slides kind of copied over with badish quality. But these ones are the good ones, so I don't know. Let me know if it's not working out well for you guys.
No, it's working perfectly fine.
Yeah. But Talonflame's still very, very solid for this team. Again, it's double flying, and he really wants to grab that good grass because he is kind of like, oh shit, I lose to opposing electrics right now. Lots of pressure on Garchomp. Good thing he doesn't play an opposing Coco because he has it. Because that one would 6-0 him right now. But I mean, again, you can't get 6-0'd by it if you have it, which is really nice. Again, he sees that good grass. I like Talonflame a lot though. Offers a lot of really, really good momentum for his team and really bullies those fat grasses that Garchomp doesn't appreciate, that Milotic doesn't appreciate. That Coco doesn't appreciate and things like that. And with spikes and you turning around with this thing, being bulk up talent or SD talent, a bunch of different options. I really do like it for this team. Or just special talent's also a really good option with Hurricane this gen. So definitely dope. Rhyperior.
That's one of another bulky ground types you love to see. Rhyperior is a really amazing mon with solid rock, not getting hit that hard, that's what I want to say, by water and grass type, like 4 times super effective. It has rocks, it can set up on you. It's just really hard hitting mon in general and a really tanky one. I think there's a specific turn Morgan players use for those type of mons, but I'm not quite sure about what it is.
It's like tank, I think. I don't know.
I think it might be tank, yeah. But it kinda gives you another fighting type weakness, and fighting is somewhat spammable against you right now. That's
it's just Feeny that stops it.
Yeah, but like Feeny doesn't have recovery, so you're gonna get in a circle at some point. But besides that, Rhyperior really fits this team in my opinion, because you can switch Ferrothorn into grass and water type attacks. That's gonna take it like all day long if it needs to. And then you can have Rhyperior either set up your rocks and say, okay, that's all, it had to do what it had to do. Or you can use Rhyperior a bit more offensive and be like, yeah, maybe I'm gonna run Swords instead and kill something.
Or break a wall. Banded
or...
Rhyperior is also the truth.
That's true. Banded Rhyperior can also work. Rock Blast is always good to run because it breaks ashes for you. And Earthquake is most of the time a pretty spammable move.
Oh, yeah.
And even though those grass types who would normally check it gets probably 2-hit or 1-hit by Mega Horn, which is super amazing.
Heat Crash, another option too. So
true, it gets Heat Crash now.
Heat Crash and Fire Punch. It's really solid. I like it on this team. Like you said, he's a little fighting weak. He's also very ground weak at this point. He has no ground resist, so I think that's something else he needs to patch going forward. Maybe grabbing a bug. Obviously grabbing an immunity would be very clutch as well. Because right now I'm clicking Banded Earthquake versus this team. With whatever ground type I have, I'm trying to click Banded Earthquake. But again, there's still, a good 5 rounds left, 4 rounds left, 5 rounds left. So he can definitely patch that for sure. But really, really needs to prioritize in getting that ground resist. Wrong way. There we go. Speaking of ground resist, Tangrowth, one of my absolute favorite ground resists in the world. This Pokemon is absolutely phenomenal. With an AV, it's really hard to kill on both sides. With a Rocky Helmet, it can really just bully and wear down every physical attacker everywhere and anywhere. Leech Seeding up, Sleep Powdering, knocking off, Earthquaking, Giga Draining, just being an absolute nuisance to for teams to deal with. I really do like Tangrowth a lot, and I know it's again another mon that John's really comfortable with. So seeing this thing is really nice, and again gives him that ground resist that he didn't have before. He had a couple of immunities, but he did not have a ground resist, and he did get probably one of the best Zamacy checks, 100%. So when you take away your own best mons, one of their best checks, it's gonna be really nice for you, obviously. So I do like Tangrowth here a lot.
I agree.
Boom! Nidoqueen from Tone here as I disappear for one more slide. What do you think about Nidoqueen?
Nidoqueen is like that quotation mark defensive counterpart to Nidoking, obviously. She does some jobs better, some jobs weaker than Nidoking. Like, she's more of the defensive, bulky hazard. I'm gonna set up Stealth Rocks, Toxic Spikes, whatever I want on you, and then probably gonna hit something really hard. Where Nidoking is like the total opposite and just gonna hit something really hard. It really fits well in with the team, in my opinion, yet the ground weakness is kind of getting hard on this one as well, like Zeps being its only immunity, thank you. And yeah, like, it really fits the team. The rocks it provides this team, or the hazards overall, is really amazing for the team. And yeah, I like it here. I actually do like it here, even though I was like, maybe it's not that good because of the ground weaknesses it has. But
he had to grab that ground and poison eventually. He had to grab the ground and poison eventually. But yeah, he does need to grab grass, but plenty. Again, 5 rounds left. He should be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, next up is Quagsire. Here it is. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought that I would pick up a Quagsire? Let's be real, guys. I could tell you a lot of the things, good things about Quagsire. It's annoying manners, and no one likes me for drafting it every time. Recover, Earthquake, Scald, Haze, Toxic. Sadly, it does not get rocks. It gets Stockpile, which can be really annoying for teams to break. It gives me water immunity in case I want to run, like, Water Absorb Quagsire, which will happen because I have Underworld Clefable in the back. Like, I just love this thing. I use it like basically every draft league I can get a chance to. It's an amazing Pokemon. What do I need to say anymore? Quagsire round 6 is quite late for me to draft a Quagsire. I drafted it round 1, and for the early Quagsire pick, I think we could get the stream up to 20 likes for Owen. Let's go.
Oh yeah, we're getting close, yeah. Oh yeah, we're at 18. We're at 18. We're getting pretty close here. Boom! Next up, we got Slurpuff from mid, grabbing his Fairy type, grabbing Webs, which is actually really solid with things like Victini and Naganadel especially. I was gonna say the first Pokemon that
finally
didn't have momentum, but he got Seismitoad before that, which doesn't make sense. So he's patched up some hazards. Definitely a low tier fairy option, but I think this bulk is for sure slept on. I've used Fat Slurpuff more than I've used offensive Belly Drum Slurpuff, which again, it can do with Unburden. It can be a form as a great sweeper. From the physical side with that Belly Drum option, with Player plus Drain Punch hitting, honestly, most things very, very hard at +6 if it gets the opportunity to set up. And outspeeding most things with that Unburden, or running like Cotton Guard, Calm Mind type sets with Draining Kiss and Flamethrower and Surf and Energy Ball, and the great special coverage that it has. Like we said, it has Webs, it has Wish, it has obviously Wish and Protect, it has Aromatherapy for the Cleric. So I think this Pokemon gets a little bit too much flack for being like too offensive of a fairy, because I think with proper investment, it really can be great defensively. I've used this to wall many Urshifus in my day. It's not that bad of a check in the slightest. And Draining Kiss plus Wish is a great way to keep yourself healthy, for sure. So
yeah,
I think
do agree completely.
I think it's really solid. Next up, speaking of round 6 picks that are very typical of the coach, I drafted Licky. Very early Licky, as per usual, but everybody always drafts it if I don't draft it early. So I really wanted to grab Licky. It's really the only fat, bulky normal that I really like in the format. It's my absolute boy. I think this thing is absolutely phenomenal. Probably, it might be in my top 5 favorite draft league Pokemon ever, just because of this gen, how much I've taken it. If you know me, one of the things I don't like in Pokemon, I like fat teams. I like fat balance and, teams like that, but I hate passivity. I don't like passive Pokemon at all. And most fat normals, things like Audino, things like that, they're pretty darn passive. And Licky isn't that because Oblivious obviously allows it to not be taunted. And I don't like Pokemon that are taunt fodder. And I know Jesse Farr, he's saying Z in the chat, he's spamming Z's, but he was taking it this next pick if I didn't take it. He was actually very upset that I took this instead of letting him get it. Because you can see his next pick is Audino, so I don't want to hear it. Because you know damn well you're going to take this thing if I didn't this gen. But I absolutely love Licky. I think it's great with Wish Passing and Heal Belling and throwing off Toxics and Seismic Tossers. Swords Dance Licky is the truth. Cursed Licky is the truth as well. I will run an offensive Licky or a setup Licky as a win con if you don't have sufficient ways of breaking it down. You don't have that offensive fighting, or you don't have a ghost. I can curse in your face, I can sword stance up and really bully you. And I can wish pass now to the rest of my team. Things like Heatran and Swampert, and even Scolipede, Rillaboom, and Kyurem really appreciate that. And having that Cleric is really important for Kyurem, so I can use it early in the game. Potentially, maybe get stats with a Toxic or a Burn or something like that, and then basically bring it back to life with a Heal Bell later on. So I love this thing. I think it's by far the best low tier normal in the game. Obviously by me drafting it 87 million times, but again, it's very solid. I love this thing, man. It's so good. It's so good. Next up, we have
one low tier one.
We have Latino, and I guess I'll just cover this really quick, and then pass it right back over to Lucas. I think that Jesse obviously drafted this because he didn't get Licky, but Audino is definitely the next best option. So while it is a really early tier 5 Audino pick, it makes sense. There weren't that many fat normals that really fit the rules of his team very well. At this point, besides Licky, so it definitely makes sense him grabbing this. Gives him Wish, gives him Heal Bell, which again is very important. Encore is a very important tool for Audino because of how passive that it can be. You don't want to be set up water for anything, so you can go ahead and Encore things into potential setup moves, potential substitutes, things like that. You can knock items off a lot like Licky can, which I forgot to mention about Licky. Still probably this would have been my next option. I probably would have drafted Audino, but again, like Nisho was saying, it is worse Licky. So that is unfortunate for J-Bear, but we all can't have Licky. And it's usually just me that it can have Licky. So that's gonna be Audino for him. Oops, wrong way. There's Licky again. Next we have Hitmontop for Trexor. You wanna talk about Hitmontop?
Yes, sir. Easy. But talking to the Licky thing again, just get Licky Tongue. Just as good as the other one.
Exactly, same theme.
But speaking of Hitmontop, which got a huge buff this season, this generation with Triple Axle in my mind, being able to hit Mons really hard for no reason at all with Technician. It also can be still run with Intimidate, Assault Vested, Rapid Spin, Close Combat. It gets a lot of moves it can throw at you. It's a pretty bulky Mon for what it actually is in my opinion. It has pretty balanced out stats. And Rapid Spin, giving it Speed Boost, Technician Boost, the Triple Axles, Mach Punch. There's a lot of things went right with this Mon this generation. I just like the way it's standing right now. And it really helps the team out overall. It gives you some more ways to check physically offensive Mons. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. It fits.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely not a bad Mon at all. Again, it just gets get that little bit of wish pass. Again, I'm a big wish guy, so it gets a little bit of wish pass, keeps it healthy. Because Hitmontop is a very solid pivot, especially with an assault vest. But it is liable to get very worn down, especially if it's coming in and taking spike damage to spin the way and things like that. RP the John Jr. NCP Dream with Talonflame type. I can't believe Ant would do that to you. Double flying just to ruin your day, D-Ray. Absolutely messed up. But next up we have Incog grabbing Porygon 2. More slow momentum to go on top of Slowbro. He has like a really interesting Trick Room aspect to his team, but there's no abusers yet. So maybe he'll patch that and get something like that later on. But P2 gives him a Ghost immunity, which he did lose to the move Shadow Ball at this point in time in the game, so that definitely makes sense. B2 is definitely very solid. It's a bit passive for my liking. It seems to be taunt and knock fodder a lot of the time, but if not sufficiently prepared for, it's so annoying to deal with. And it's not like it doesn't do any damage at all too. You could definitely throw off Analytic or download boosted like Tri Attacks and Discharges and Ice Beams, great coverage, Trick Room, Recover, Teleport, a bunch of different options in that, right? So not the worst mod in the world. Definitely very solid, especially for its price point. Definitely don't blame him taking this, especially because again he did just auto lose to every Ghost type ever in the game at this point. So he just needs that Dark type, and then he's chilling from there. Especially with Double Psychic, I think he definitely needs to get that Dark type. So that's definitely nice. That was the bulky normal round. Yeah, I guess people started seeing him go, and they were like, "Oh no, I am sweating," and started grabbing them all, which definitely makes sense. Next up is Comfey for Amel. Did you want to talk about Comfey real quick?
Comfey, priority on healing moves. You set up a fairy type, which he didn't have till this point. Completes his Fairy Dragon Steel Core. All the good things that you want in one Pokemon is basically combined in this thing. It might lack a bit of coverage, but it makes that up with setup options and priority on moves like Drain Kiss and Giga Drain. Gets Karma, gets Defog. I said Heatran already. Pretty solid stat line. Good mon.
Okay, gives him
Not
a
the
cleric.
best fairy, but an amazing one.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Gives him a cleric as well, which is nice for things like Giratina and things like that. So definitely solid. Yep. Next up, Serena, ground resist time. Good stuff, D-Ray. I love me a good ground resist. Another mon that can, again, bulky waters. Gives him another cleric on top of Magearna, who isn't going to want to run it very often, which is dope. Gives him a knockoff presence. Gives him triple axle this gen, which is definitely interesting in hitting those flying types that might want to pivot into Serena pretty well. And gives him rapid spin, which is really clutch when you have things like webs. And obviously you're setting up hazards, hopefully for your Magearna to do really well, and your Hydreigon and your Spectre, you're going to really chip things down. You don't want to defog away your own hazards, but you also don't want to be overwhelmed by hazards. So I think spin as an option is definitely really nice, and Serena does that really well. Again, gives him that ground resist. Up to this point, he only had 2 immunities, but that was really it. And Hydreigon doesn't want to take repeated hits, and Vikavolt doesn't appreciate Stone Edges from ground types, obviously. So Serena gives him a little bit more of a bulky ground check. Next up, Geary drafted...
Priority.
What now?
Priority immunity is what you're getting from that thing.
Oh yeah, priority immunity too is nice. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. No, duh. But next up, Geary drafted Vaporeon. We'll talk about Vaporeon.
And we have the Wish Petal.
There it is.
With Flipturn. Heal Bell uses Scaldmon, Water Absorbmon, because he now can freely switch it into any Scald or Flip Turns or whatever he wants to with this thing. Gets rid of status conditions with the Heal Bell, and overall just a really bulky and awkward mon to face, and I love it. I love this thing. And that's basically all you can say about Vaporeon. Wish Passer,
very simple mon. Very simple mon, but it does its job really well. And that's all you can really ask of it, to be completely honest. Next up, we have
Sorry.
Eldegoss. God damn it, Amel. Why? Why? Wait, oh, he has Mandibuzz on this thing too. Well, what's happening? Oh, no.
I might.
They're gone! What happened? Where are all the draft slides? Hold on, I gotta... Which one is this? Let me, Is it only 133? Oh. And then my alarm goes off. Oh, man. Eldegoss more like that, I do agree. Sit with this guy while we have a little bit of technical difficulties really quick. Eldegoss is unfortunately a mon.
Eldegoss is on slide... Come on. Show me the Eldegoss.
I only have slides up until 133. Is it 133?
Eldegoss is on... 74.
What the heck? Then why in the world is it not going forward?
I don't know.
That's weird. No, yeah, I'm not
But yeah, it has many buffs on there because I may have messed it up. I'll be completely honest, I might have forgotten to remove many buffs on that one.
No, that's fine. That's whatever. But it's like resetting for me at this point.
Is there maybe a limit? You look into the in the dia show, in the slideshow thing, sure.
No, yeah, because it goes all the way up until 133. Is that how many picks there are in the draft?
Yeah, 133.
Yeah, so I have all of them loaded in. D-Ray, you're the draft stream man. Let me know what you like, if this is something that you typically oops. Well, I accidentally just deleted the Eldegoss. Let me see where that was. I guess we'll be able to see.
It's always Eldegoss that causes problems to everybody.
Man, I know. I'm sorry, guys. Does it have like a limit, D-Ray? These type of streams. Would you say what number is Eldegoss? This happened in NCP. How do you fix? 47. Is there an easy fix, or is it just like redoing it and getting back in there? I could go add files. I could also do like I could just try
74.
74. I'll DM you. Okay, Deer's gonna DM me. I'm sorry, guys. Sit with us just for a quick second while I figure this out and why it's not freaking working.
Got a lot of stuff like that happening.
Technical difficulties. Am I right? And you said Eldegoss is what number?
74. 74.
Oh, Eldegoss is still here. Okay. So let's see. D-Ray. Show properties. Hold on. Like the first 3 rounds. Okay, how do I delete all of those ones then? I have to delete some of them, but I don't know how to delete them. Oh, I could just go like that. I'm trying to delete all of them, but it's also gonna take. I have to manually click them. It's whatever. We're gonna have to go through. You guys will get a little recap of the thing so far. So let me know. You see a pic, you're like, oh man, I don't remember that one. Like the little gear in the scene.
Quagsire 6. What? What's that?
He said, hey man. Click the little gear. Highlight the first. I clicked the little gear, D-Ray, and it's not letting me like select multiple of them. That's why I am confused. So much deleted the pics. Hold shift. Control down. I can go alt down. Yeah, it's not letting me highlight the first pic, then hold shift and the down arrow. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it's not working. I'm just gonna try and delete all of them one by one. Whatever, it's all good. It'll take a second, but we're gonna go through them. Boom, boom. I'll delete all the way up until 70 or whatever. Let's see. I'll go here. We're actually almost halfway there, so it's actually not that bad. Again, a little bit of a recap. Look, there's a Tapu Fini. There's an Urshifu's, a blast from the past, guys. It's a blast from the past. Look at that. Boom. There's my Scolipede. Sorry, Scolipede.
Sorry, Scolipede, be gone.
Boom.
I'm gonna use that second of technical difficulties.
Boom. Boom. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. There's Lucas's Incineroar. 58. 59. I don't remember Cheer getting Duskmane Necrozma. Oh, guess we'll accept it. Yeah, I don't remember me getting well, what's pretty broken? I don't remember me getting Kyogre. It's pretty crazy, but for just allowing stuff. There's Big Quag. Look how close we are already. Big Licky. Oh no.
Let's go.
Hitmontop. This is another reason to hate Eldegoss.
It's always
just another reason to hate Eldegoss, and it's stupid and bad. Thanks, Amel. Gosh. Okay, let's go done, and let's see. Look at that! It is working. Okay, cool. I don't even want to talk about Eldegoss anymore. I think we got through it fine. We're gonna spoil the next few picks to make sure it's good. Yeah, it is good. My pleasure. Blah. Well, Amel got Eldegoss, and Eldegoss sucks, but it gives him a ground resist, and it gives him rapid spin, which is nice in case he wants to stack hazards, which is alright. But I want him off my screen. I'm sorry, Amel. We'll plug you. This is all your fault. Go yell at Amel and like all of his videos in the meantime. Go ahead and go check out Amel, guys. Paul, if I have Solgaleo Necro, should I be able to bring 5 to a game but Necro Decimate? No, you don't. But you don't even have both. You don't even have Necro. If you get no, I'm not gonna say if you get Necro from Amel, because he might give it to you after to cause even more chaos. Next up, speaking of chaos, because that's where the stream has gone. Incog said, I have a Landorus, now I want a Zygarde. He said, I don't care about ice types. Ice types mean nothing to me.
Ice types are just an urban legend, they don't exist.
Yeah. I have Slowbro, who cares? Which I guess is fair. It is a bit redundant, but hey, you know what? If it works, it works. I love Zygarde. I think it's a great mon. It's a mon that can just win games on its own. How's it going, Brody? Welcome to stream, man. Zygarde's again mon that can just win games on its own, especially with no hidden power. This thing is so fat. And again, it's a lot like Weavile can indeed 6-0 this team. So whoever has Weavile might have a good time versus Mr. Incog. But Incog also had no Ghost Immunity or Ghost Resistant, played Marshadow in BBL and somehow won that game. So, I mean, anything is possible if you believe.
That is indeed true.
Mono loses to Weavile team, yeah. It's definitely tough against Weavile, but Zygarde's a great mon regardless. It's, again, a mon that can win games on its own. Very, very solid Pokemon, for sure.
The most spammable move in game.
The most spammable move in the game. The best move in the game, 1,000 Arrows. No hidden power, obviously, is a great buff for it, and just making it not die to anything that doesn't get ice coverage. Nothing will Oko it. Have fun trying to kill it. Obviously, taking a little bit of a hit offensively with like Dragon Dance sets with no Z moves, but I think the defensive buff is enough to more than make up for that, which is obviously great. You know what makes a glass of water refreshing? What, dear? I'll give you time for this pun before I move on to the next. Ice. Yeah, there you go, dear. Thanks. And here, speaking of ice, baby, here's Cryogonal. You want to talk about Cryogonal?
We have a very special snowflake here. I think one of the only mons who gets access to both Defog and Rapid Spin, which is kind of rare in my opinion. I don't know why it is so rare, but it is. It has good speed stat and a good special defense stat, which makes it actually capable of taking some hits. It gets Freeze Dry, which is, I think, the best thing about this Pokemon. Freeze Dry, Recover, Knockoff. And one of the defogging or hazard removing moves that's gonna probably be the thing you're gonna run most on this thing. Yeah, and besides that, there's not really much. Yeah, and there's not really much else to say besides, yeah, you can
good tier 5,
good tier 5 on it.
Yeah, good tier 5 value, and it gives them a good speed tier. I need.
Yeah.
First time I've ever seen Zygarde into Cryogonal back-to-back at draft. Best Coco check. Have you ever been calm-minded on? Oh my god, dear. Cryo is definitely very solid. It is absolute fodder for any steel and fire type ever. But it can at least toxic the fire types, and it can go ahead and rapid spin and, you know, just be a general nuisance. And again, great low tier value, so you can't complain too much.
I killed the Diancie with it once with Flash Can.
That's pretty dope. Oh my.
That's like the best thing I ever did with it.
And that is pretty dope. I have seen that before. That's pretty dope. Tangela, J-Bear, grabbing his ground resist. Look at that regen spam. Torn, Mienshao, Audino, and Tangela. I love Boots, man. Shoes, Boots, whatever you want to call him. Regardless, he's a cute guy. He's a really solid ground resist with an Eviolite. Really hard to take down physically. Even bulkier on the fist up side, or just bulkier in general than something like Tangrowth, which is pretty nuts. Obviously, it's Knock Flutter. It's a lot more passive, things like that. But it gets a lot of the same utility moves and things like that to do. So Tangela is definitely incredibly solid. I really do like this Pokemon a ton. And it fits J-Bear's team a lot. It gets off knockoffs and sleep powders and be a general nuisance and just, you know, live earthquakes, which team didn't really appreciate Edgequake at all up to this point. So him realizing that and grabbing that good budget grass is definitely really, really important, and it's great value in tier 5 too. Great value. But yeah, that's gonna be Tangela. And if you guys can help us hit 20 likes, I would really appreciate it. We are so close. We just got some new viewers popping into the stream. If you guys want to hit that like button, get us to 20, I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, next up, my pick, Grimmsnarl. Not my favorite fairy, I won't lie. I'm not super comfortable with Grimmsnarl being my fairy type. But it gives me a dark type, which there weren't that many great ones left, and it gives me a fairy type. It gives me screens, which is another really important thing with Kyurem and Scolipede and potentially even Rillaboom. I think screens was really, really nice. for me to potentially have, to facilitate easier setup opportunities and things like that. It's also very solid offensively. It has solid coverage for things that check Dark and Fairy. Dark and Fairy is just a great offensive typing in general with fighting and fire coverage. Sucker Punch, it gets bulk up. It's just a general nuisance and has a really cool design at the very least. Favorite mod from this gen, it is definitely super sick design-wise. I do like Grimmsnarl a lot design-wise. Again, I'm just very iffy on it being a fairy. It is a very solid Dragon Bolt check though, which is pretty cool. Despite it not checking a lot of other dragons very well, it checks Dragon Bolt really well, which is dope. That's kind of true. That is kind of just Grimmsnarl. Not much to say. Gives me screens. Gives me prankster shenanigans. Gives me prankster taunt. Could be prankster like rest talk.
T-wave.
Yeah, prankster rest talk. Prankster T-wave. Yeah, for speed control. They'll have banded Kyurem hits. I don't need to set up if I'm faster than everything. They'll have big banded hits. So definitely super dope. Next up, we have Big Snorlax. You want to talk about Lax for mid?
Oh yeah. I love me some Snorlax. Like, it's probably one of my favorite normal types to grab a draft, but not like those typical curse sets. I really love to run it as a bulky wall type of deal. Like with an Assault Vest, maybe takes special hits, does something back. I know I ran a Giga Impact one against John Jr. John Jr. I ran it against someone. I don't know exactly.
I think it was in round 1. You're talking about the AV set with like no with no stab. It was like mono coverage and it like went absolutely crazy. It might have been TD0. True. It was TD0. Yeah, but yeah, that's like it's an amazing mon. It might not be as powerful as other normal types, but it's pretty fat, and taking it down will take a lot from your team, and if you don't do it in time, it's probably going to put you in a so bad situation that you won't be able to recover from it. I saw that happening. I did that to other people's, and yeah, it basically gives your type another fire resistance and an ice resistance, which on this team is pretty good, I would say. Oh yeah.
Because ice types weren't really appreciated. No, they kind of are.
He actually didn't have a resist. Because Victini.
Yeah.
Which isn't, again, the one mon you want switching in and taking those fire moves. Which, again, so I think it's very solid. It plus Corvi is very annoying. And it's a Pokemon that forces so much prep. Wax forces so much prep. It's so absolutely... Toad doesn't resist ice at all. Yeah, no, Toad doesn't resist ice. Did I say fire? I meant ice. I was talking ice type moves. I might have said fire, thinking fire. Yeah, to be completely fair, I totally might have said fire. And again, he has 2 fire resist outside of this, which is nice. But I was more so thinking ice. But she didn't have a great resist 2 outside of team, which again, don't want to take too many hits. So I do like the Lax pick from it a lot. Kind of forming a little bit more of that defensive backbone with Corvi and Toad. Next is Tauros, which is going to be your round 6 or 7, whatever pick we are on. Pick.
I think we're like 7.
Yeah,
Tauros. What is there much to say about the Alaskan Bullworm? You have a wide amount of coverage on this thing. You have super cool sets you can run, or you're just going to slap a life up on it and hit something. Like, it gives me a ghost immunity. It's not the best ghost immunity because it's still Tauros and it's frail, but it has good speed here. It has good power to hit things, and it has a wide coverage move. Since it's Gen 1 mon, it gets like basically all those coverage moves like Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Surf, maybe. I don't know about Surf actually, but you know, all those funny Sheer Force moves you could use. It also gives me Intimidate, but let's be real, it's gonna run Sheer Force and life.
9 times out of 10, yeah. I've definitely seen Intimidate Tauros, like Fat Tauros, Restock do some work, but 99% of the time, yeah, you're gonna be Sheer Force. But I do like the speed tier that it offers your team, and like you said, it's a pretty garbage ghost immunity. It is 1, so you know, Scarf and Spec Shadow Ball isn't like completely free versus you, but you have Incineroar, which is a phenomenal ghost check, so that's obviously gonna help a ton with this. So definitely solid one.
I agree.
Boom. Next up,
what do we have next?
Persian Alola with my face disappearing. It is time for Tone to pick again. He went with Persian. Persian's definitely a very solid mon. It gives him great momentum. Kind of bridges a gap speed tier-wise between Zapdos and Dragapult a little bit. Gives him that 110-ish, like, plus type mon. Which is, again, really, really solid. Knockoff Fan gives him a dark type, so Psychic moves aren't completely spammable versus him. Things can't run Mono Psychic, at least. Obviously, Persian isn't breaking through a lot of fat Psychics, but it can also taunt a lot of them. Parting Shot out, just be a general nuisance throw off knockoffs and foul plays. The Nasty Plot version is a really fun option in some niche matchups where teams don't appreciate the coverage like Dark Pulse, Thunderbolt, Power Gem type things. I don't know if it gets Water Pulse with Technician boosting it. I know last gen it had Hidden Power, which was Technician boosted, which is definitely nice. But then Fur Coat makes it great physically, or pivot into physical offense, which is great. It lives a lot of really dumb physical hits that it just absolutely should not. Gets like Play Rough from the physical side, and Seed Bomb, and U-Turn, and Parting Shot, and all that stuff like I was saying. So definitely a very solid mon. I know some people do not like Persian at all. I think it's very solid, personally. So I definitely like it. Boom! Moltres.
I saw this.
What now?
I saw this thing getting run multiple times through the weakness policy and rattle for all those U-turn spams and then just sweep a team. That's like funny.
Get a bunch of berserks and things like that. I think. Persian.
With weakness policy and rattled, and they U-turn out on it and boosted speed and its attack and special attack.
Super sick. I've never seen that. That's super clean. That's dope, actually. I totally forgot to plug. Who was that? That was Toto. And next up is going to be John with Moltres. What do you think of Moltres?
If it just would have gotten roost. If
this thing would just be Mandibuzz on fucking Mandibuzz on crack, dude. This thing's sick.
Yeah.
I wish this mod got roost. It's so cool. Its stats rate is great too. Oh man.
Yeah, it really is. Like the extra flint. This thing is basically a flinch machine if you really look at it. Like they gave it Air Slash and Fiery Wrath on purpose. They were like, okay, this thing is gonna flinch things. This is what it's here for. Agility, Nasty Plot, U-Turn. It gets a lot of moves it can use. But there's this all reliable set with Rest and Berserk and all the funny moves it can click, which is gonna probably be good to use. Besides that, it's a good flying type, it's a good dark type, and there's nothing wrong with this mon. I really like it.
Oh yeah, no, it's dope. Again, it's just Roost, no Roost holding it back for sure. Really wish it had Roost, but it's still very solid, very fat and annoying and very strong. It can definitely be very solid with like boots or weakness policy and a bunch of different options like that.
Completely agree, and it gives him the dark type he desperately needed with Latios and Metagross.
Yeah, the double psychic core. Plus also bullies those psychic types for Zama that they might kind of sit in front of and stuff like that. So that's dope. Next up is Slowbro Galar. I haven't seen this Pokemon drafted since like Isle of Armor, but I'm here for it. I just simply do not see this Pokemon drafted at all. I talked about it in a video the other day. I really never see this thing drafted, but it's definitely not bad at all. Regen is the best ability in the game, and you can't convince me otherwise. Regen is the best ability in draft or even in Smogon singles, and Slowbro gets it. And it has the same dual typings that Slowbro Galar, or that Slowking Galar, but it has very similar coverage. Just isn't as fat and annoying, but can still do a lot of similar things. It can Trick Room, it can Calm Mind, and I believe it can Nasty Plot. I don't know for sure. I'm like 99% sure it can Nasty Plot because the other three can. But great coverage. Conforms that Assault Vest genuine nuisance. Not going to be as fat as Slowking, but is going to be stronger, I believe. And then can also Trick Room. It's probably better as an OTR set than Slowking even is. So definitely not a bad mod at all. I don't typically see it drafted. I'm actually excited for it. This and Zerk. I hope they do the absolute best. Oops, wrong way. And next up, we have Drapion, another dark type grabbed this round. What do you think about Drapion?
Drapion, grounded poison type first of all, which is super important, and a lot of teams should have it. It does have access to Sword Stance, which is super cool. It can be a pretty good Assault Vest user. It can be pretty good setup sweeper. But I think the most part people use it is to actually check Psych type stores. That's what it does best. It might be weak to those focus spells they might be throwing out, but this thing obviously is able to check them and probably kill them in the long run. And if you don't be aware of it and it starts setting up on you with agilities or sword stances, it can end you pretty quick.
Oh yeah, it's looking bad.
It has the good coverage of moves it can throw at you. Like
Aqua Tail, Earthquake. Spikes, yeah, it does have 2 spikes. It has Aqua Tail, Earthquake, Brick Break, Fire Fang, I think. A bunch of different cool options. Obviously, it stabs. Definitely a dope mod. Probably one of my favorite dark types to draft, personally. So, that's going to be Drapion. I believe we are on to round 8, where Ant is going to grab Gourgeist to ground resist. Hallelujah. There we go. Here it is. Ground Resist finally acquired. Also, a good pivot into Fat Annoying Waters. Gourgeist can kind of chew from a lot of them. Obviously, he has to risk the burn. I think that's one thing with this team is he doesn't appreciate Fat Waters throwing off Toxics and just being a nuisance, especially ones that can kind of deal with and bully Milo down. He's going to have a little bit of trouble with them, but Gourgeist is still a great mon nonetheless. It's a great ground resist. It's a great ghost as well, and I think having a ghost in general is very nice. They got Poltergeist as gen, so offensive Gourgeist is a lot better than it was before, but you can still run Fat Gourgeist as well. Plenty of different options. Shadow Sneak is for priority. Gets Will-O-Wisp. Just genuine nuisance for a ton of teams to deal with. Rapid Fire, on to the next. Oh, you get to talk about my mascot, man. You talk about Salamence for T-Row.
Oh, Salamence, more using, and one of the best dragon, if not the best dragon you can get outside of Ubers, in my opinion. Fuck Dragapult, this thing is better.
I don't agree, but I'm so here for it. Tell me more. Dude, this is my favorite one. I love Ments. Okay, keep going.
Have you ever seen a dragon type with Wish? I haven't. This thing gets it. For no reason but having it. It does get it. It can be a bulky support mon, it can be a setup sweeper, it can be just a nonsense in teams. It gets dual wing beat this season. Dragon Dance into dual wing beats will destroy people. And it's bulky enough to take most hits. Heavy duty boots give it that extra bit of health on it, because it does not get chipped by the rocks. And Intimidate or Moxie, it's up to you. If you want to go hard, you can go Moxie. If you want to go more of a safe defensive route, you can go to Intimidate and just abuse some of those bulkier walls to set up on them and basically end the game.
Oh yeah, this Pokemon, and I think that's one of the things that's really slept on, is you think Dragon Dance Dance, you think it like, Intimidate, you can just set up with it, and Moxie, you can see through teams. I think people really sleep on, one, Fat Ments, like you were saying, it gets Wish, it gets, Intimidate, and it roosts, and it just stays alive and doesn't die to one hit unless it's a nice move or a dragon move ever. But also, especially offensive Ments is the truth, and I think it's so good. It got Hurricane this gen, which is great. It gets like Flamethrower and Fire Blast, obviously. It gets like Hydro Pump for some reason. Obviously, Draco Meteor is a great move. I think Special Ments, I think it's like 110 special attack. Special Ments is the truth, man. It's really good, even if it's like super offensive. It doesn't even have to be like fat Special Ments. It can just be specially offensive. Life Orb, Sharp Beak. Skyplate is what I run a shirt on because it sounds cooler. But Sharp Beak does the same, obviously effect. Or Specs Ments I've even seen go absolutely crazy. So I think Ments is really cool in the sense that it's incredibly versatile outside of just being that scary setup sweeper. And if you doesn't name it Owen or OGalbina, he's immediately kicked from the league on site immediately. Next up, we have Kangaskhan. John has kind of taken some pointers from his NCP run team, with grabbing the Moltres last round and then grabbing Kangaskhan this round. He needed a normal type and get a little bit more, get a little bit of Wish Pass going for his team, which it really does appreciate with things like Zamba, Weezing, Metagross, Moltres, Landorus, even Tangrowth to a smaller extent, Latios to a smaller extent. His whole team really does appreciate Wish, and Kangaskhan offers him that. It offers him a Cleric, I think, as well. I think Kangaskhan gets clerical, abilities.
I can check that really quick. I think it does, yeah. Pretty
sure it does. But yeah, again, it definitely makes sense. It was probably one of the best mons available in Tier 5, honestly. I really like Kangaskhan. If I didn't get Licky or Ardino, Kangaskhan is for sure my next pick when I usually go for bulky normals. I think this one's really slept on.
No, it doesn't get any.
It doesn't get Cleric options?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope,
well,
it does not.
He is Weezing at least for that, which is definitely nice. So definitely I like Kanga a lot here. It was probably the best normal left for his team composition and things like that. And it can go really offensive with Scrappy boosted Silk Scarf, double edges and things like that. It gets Earthquake and Fake Out and Power Up Punch and a bunch of different things. You could play like a mini Mega Kangaskhan kinda without the parental bond, which is definitely pretty dope. Next up is Magmortar. Do you want to talk about Magmortar with Tone here?
This is one of those mons I never really used per se, but I can say if I face it, it does something at least. Like, it can hit you hard with a lot of coverage moves it gets, since its pre-evolution is a Generation 1 Pokemon, which gets all those coverage moves once again. But I don't know why Gen 1 even gets them, but that's another story. It does hit pretty hard with Choice Specs or Life Orb. They gave a teleport for momentum, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think Does it get flame? Does it get flash fire? No, I don't think it does.
I think it's flame body. It might get flash fire. Honestly, let me check.
No, it gets rid of spirit. It gets
Wild spirit.
Wild
Okay.
Spirit. Sad.
Oh.
Flash fire would have been amazing, but 125 base special attack from an okay speed stat is pretty good. It is not the perfect fire type you want on this team, because it does not really take the fire moves for my metal all too good. But he has... What does he have for that? Oh, for Rapid Strike, I guess, and Dragon Bolt, yeah, but none of his team really appreciate like Recreator. Victini just can click a button against his team at point now. But maybe he changed that. I think Magmortar is a good mon for where it was at point-wise, but I think there are some things he could have improved on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Alright, next up, we have Poltegeist. You want to talk about your little teapot? Short and stout?
Oh, the Poltegeist. This was one of the mons who was on my draft board for a long time. I personally never used it. I saw it doing work, but it's like one of those mons where you don't have... Maybe you don't see it coming, maybe you don't bring your normal type for whatever reason, then this thing is probably gonna ruin your day in a really bad way. And yeah, what does it do? It trail smashes, it can trick your Choice Scarf, it can be an answer, just spamming Shadow Ball and storing power. And emergency wise, it gets strength up for no reason at all, and can do that. So yeah, it's like one trick pony basically. Like you're gonna run Shell Smash if you bring this thing, let's be real here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, no Ghost Resist or Flimsy Ghost Resist, and Poltegeist is a good time. Next up we have Girder. Very, very solid tier 5 value pick for mid here. Actually gives him another defogger for some reason. He spins a Cinder Block around in the air and the hazards fly away. Gives him, honestly, a nice bulky pivot there, down there with the EV Light. Can bulk up, sweep through teams, Mach Punch is an option. It gets Iron Fist as well. Though typically you run Guts just to deter, stats coming your way, but you can run Iron Fist boosted, Mach Punches, Drain Punches, and obviously Elemental Punches as well. Which is definitely really solid. Girder's definitely one of my favorite low tier mons. It sucks that it's a fighting type that doesn't want to ever take a knockoff, but it's still very bulky, very annoying, and still very strong for its point cost, which is definitely very, very nice. So that's gonna be Girder. Next up, it's my turn, and I got Zapdos, and I'm so excited to use Zapdos again. I think this Pokemon is sick. Offers great momentum for my team and a great breaker for my team. Something that I can really abuse those fat steals and things that want to come in on Rillaboom a lot better than something like Swampert in the back, or Heatran. I get something else that gets momentum, and I can kind of put people in the vortex a little bit more with his Zapdos pick. I can throw off big thunderous kicks, dropping defenses, really breaking through fat. Or I can throw off big close combats and brave birds. I can bulk up in agility and be a general nuisance that way, and just be an absolute pain for teams to deal with. I like Zapdos a lot. I've used it multiple times, and each time it surprises me more and more on how solid it really can be. So Zapdos is great, and I think it's definitely a solid pick for us here in this round. Next up is Aromatisse. What do you think about that one?
Nothing good, to be honest, but it is a wish pass nonetheless. You can wish pass, you can aromatherapy, like the name already gives away. He really needed a wish pass, let's be honest. Like Galeo, Rotom Heat does appreciate it, Crocodile does appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had an Audino as well.
It's a great way to it's a great way to keep his team healthy though. And Audino's not one that comes to every matchup just because due to its passivity. It really can't come to that many.
That's true, but like, Aromatisse gives like away the same passivity in my opinion, because what does it really do? It click Moonblast. I don't even think they gave it Mystical Fire, which is kind of sad. Otherwise they could be like a bit more offensive with this thing, because it gets Nasty Blood and now it gets Trick Room, which is super cool, but it does not get the stats to abuse that. Like, it could be a really cool, oh, I'm gonna set up a Trick Room here, oh, I'm gonna Nasty Blood, and now you're in danger, my friend. But they didn't give it to him. They just did him dirty. Let's be honest.
A little bit messed up. It would have been actually a lot better with Mystical Fire, I agree. But again, there's only so many fairy types, and it gives him a great Wish Passer for his team that's outside of Audino, which is even harder to justify bringing to a lot of matchups. So I get it.
That's true.
Next up, speaking of fairy types, here's a pretty good one. Sylveon is still undrafted in round 8. And Trexel drafted it, and it's really good. It gives him a great Wish Passer for that Hitmontop that I was talking about earlier, that Silvally, that Rotom, that Celesteela. and even potentially a non-roost Reshiram if he has that. So I really do like Sylveon. Hyper Voice plus Mystical Fire is great offensively as well. Spec Sylveon ain't no joke. Calm Mind Sylveon ain't no joke. Really solid mon. Can Baton Pass for momentum if it's not passing like a Calm Mind or any stats. Because we do a lot of Dry Pass, which is again great. I've seen Curse Sylveon put in work. It gets Heal Bell as well as for Cleric support for this team. So Sylveon's great, man. It's such a good fairy type. Definitely one of my favorites to draft. Probably my favorite fairy to draft just overall. So definitely a great late round pickup here by Trexo. Then we got Registeel. What do you think about Registeel for Incog?
For Incog's team itself, it looks really good. I'm personally not a big fan of Registeel because it's way too passive for my likings. It gets up to rocks. It can hit you with Seismic Tosses, yes, but besides that, what is it really gonna do? Like, it's not gonna be... Yeah, okay, it can Iron Defense and Body Press now because they gave because Body Press exists. But besides that, it's bulky. It's super bulky, yes, I agree on both of that. It lacks the recovery, it has rest for that. And yeah, besides that, it's gonna be a rock bot. It's gonna kick rocks every week, and then it's just gonna sit there and wall fairy type for you, which you had. He didn't really had a switching into fairy type moves till now, so maybe that actually doesn't work pretty well for him.
Yeah, and Registeel, it still can like Iron Defense, Body Press through teams or Curse through, so it is a little bit passive, but it still can be worked around, which is definitely very nice. And yeah, like Aquarius saying, there's definitely some fun options. I don't know if Blunder Policy Zapcan is what I'd be doing to make Registeel not passive, but if it worked, it worked. That is that is something right there for sure.
That's fair.
Can't say I've done that though. Cannot say I've done that. Next up, we have Mandibuzz. There it is, Mandibuzz the GOAT. Absolutely phenomenal Dark type for Amel. They're in Tier 5. Don't think it's actually in Tier 5. I think that might be a slide mess up. Sometimes we mess up on tiers, but he's not... don't worry, guys. We did not put Mandy in Tier 5. But regardless, Amel has it, and it's definitely a very solid pick and Pokemon for his team. Gives him more momentum, which is great. Gives him that Dark type, which again is very crucial for all drafts. More removal, which is great. He has tons of defog, actually. Ridiculous amounts of defog. I wish he had another rocker outside of Arrow and Necro. I think you want at least 3 if one of your rockers is Necro, because you want to force into not running rocks as much as humanly possible. And some spikes might be good. But it seems very fat and annoying at this point with things like Giratina, Necro, Scizor, Comfey, Mandibuzz. A good potential Wish Passer might be really beneficial for this team. He already has the Cleric option, but again, some rocks maybe. Which he does still need a ground type, so I'm assuming he'll end up getting that rocks from that roll, so I'm sure he'll be fine. It's definitely not Tier 5 Mandy though, don't worry, Iris. No. So we kind of like converted these tiers over straight from points, and kind of like didn't really look at the tiers too much, so some things slipped into Tier 2 that probably shouldn't have been Tier 2, some things slipped into Tier 3 that probably shouldn't have been Tier 3, but like, there was nothing egregious like Tier 5 Mandibuzz, you know, like it wasn't that bad. Next up, we have Moltres. You want to talk about Moltres for D-Ray?
Moltres is just another... We had Mandibuzz, just Moltres is like... Mandibuzz without the Dark typing. It does basically the same thing for you, besides the fact that it has Flame Body, which is an absolute pain to deal with, because you don't want to click a physical move as long as this thing is around, because getting burned is never funny. With that being said, you have Roost, Defog, Mystical Fire, Scorching Sands. They did give him a lot of good moves, actually. And Hurricane. They gave him Hurricane.
Oh, he had Hurricane before. It had Hurricane before.
He had it. Okay. Just Zapdos wasn't the one. Okay, fair. But besides that, he's super bulky, super good for the team D-Ray has. It gives everything he needs, basically. Some special defensive, some physical defense.
Another fairy resist that isn't Magearna too, taking pressure off of it. Bully's like exactly. 99% of fairies too, because most fairies are going to try and hit coverage-wise with Mystical Fire. Not on Moltres. U-turn, Toxic, bunch of things. So definitely really great.
Exactly.
And Boots exists. So definitely dope mon.
Exactly.
Next up, D-Ray going into round 9 is going to grab Weezing, getting him a ground immunity, getting him a grounded poison as well, and getting him a good fighting resist. A lot of the ones he has right now do resist fighting, but don't appreciate some potential cover 2s like Moltres, not appreciating Stone Edge. Same thing with Vikavolt, really not appreciating Stone Edge. Spectre not really a fighting immunity or a great one, because knockoff blows the ass backwards, and then Magearna is not it's not a fighting resist, and it's not something you want to switch into fighting type. So Weezing was really nice here in all honesty. Gives him T-spikes, which is great for potential Spectre shenanigans. If you get badly poison a normal type that doesn't have cleric options, you can really kind of bully it with Spectre and sub down and Calm Mind and taunt it, and things like that. Definitely makes it very solid. So I do like that a lot here with D-Ray's team. I think Weezing definitely complements some of the things he has now, and really patches some weaknesses he has as well. Amel drafted Keldeo next. What do you think about Keldeo?
The late game Keldeo. Keldeo is one of the ones I absolutely hate prepping against because it's so powerful and you never know what it's gonna do. It's an amazing Scarfer and Assault West user in this generation because of its getting flip turn. It has possibilities with a sub Calm Mindset. You can run just specs and nuke something. There's a lot of things this thing can do. It does fit his team quite well, I would say, even though his electric weakness really starts to build up pretty big, but I think he can work around that. And Keldeo doesn't want to take a hit, or Keldeo wants to nuke something. That's what Keldeo is about to do.
Oh yeah.
And most of the mons that would check special offensive mon get caught off guard by Sacred Sword hitting on the physical side, and yeah, you know the deal. This thing is a pain.
Yeah, and like you said, very solid, and hits a solid speed tier for his team. Next up is Alcremie, probably the most mid fairy type of all time, but again, there's only so many fairies in the game, especially in Sword and Shield, so you gotta do what you gotta do. Incog drafted Alcremie. Solid Calm Mind Sweeper. It can double dance too with Acid Armor, which is definitely very interesting. It gets Mystical Fire and Dazzling Gleam and Psychic, so not much to say about this Pokemon. We're kind of rapid firing through a lot of these at this point. Just we're getting towards the tail end of the draft. People are filling out very noticeable roles that they kind of need, and Incog didn't have a fairy, so grabbing a fairy is pretty darn smart.
It gets recover.
It does get recover. Yeah, it's great from the Spadef side. It's very, very frail physically defensive wise, so that's something you have to keep in mind. But again, he has 2 great fighting type checks, so does it need to be physically defensive? Not really. So it's not the worst pick in the world. Obstagoon, another very powerful pick. What do you think about Obstagoon?
Obstagoon is one of those mons that I would say the sentence way too often. Obstagoon really hits your opponents hard. Guts Pokemon with normal type Step Facade and knockoff and close combat on top of that. That's really big in my opinion. Obstruct is a cool move to get to assure your Flame Up's gonna fire off and scout for what your opponent's about to do. And with that being said, it's a normal and ghost type, which is super amazing. And yeah, fits both roles, gets blown back by a fighting type move, but he has ways to deal with fighting types, aka Sylveon and Decidueye. And yeah, really fits his team, gives him more offensive physical pressure, which he didn't have before. Not as much at least, and I like it here.
Oh, for sure. Next up is going to be Kofagrigus for Jesse 504, giving him that ghost type, which is really nice. Giving him T-Spikes, which is also nice. He doesn't actually have a ground of poison yet, so maybe he'll patch that here soon. But I do like Kofagrigus with something like Audino. This is a great physically defensive wall alongside something like Tangela. They're both knock fodder, but at least this thing doesn't become less physically frail when it gets knocked. And honestly, most knockoffs don't 2-hit KO after Kofagrigus loses its item because it's so darn physically bulky, and knockoff gets so darn nerfed, which is really solid. So just a great physically defensive wall for his team. Gives him that ghost type, that spin blocker. And yeah, it can sweep through teams with Nasty Claw and Calm Mind. It can Trick Room, it can Memento, it can do a bunch of different utility things that really help out different teams and stuff like that. So, definitely.
Don't forget about Iron Defense Body Press.
Iron Defense Body Press too, yeah. No, you're totally right. Next up is Mesprit. We're rapid firing through. I grabbed Mesprit because it gave me another rocker, gave me a psychic type, and something I really like for this team is the potential healing wish option that it gives me to get things like Rillaboom and Scolipede and especially Kyurem, Swampert, all back up to full. Heatran, all back up to full, which is great. Momentum and U-turn, it gets Trick, it gets Nasty Plot this gen, has really solid offensive coverage. It's a lot like Silvally in the sense that it is Master of None, Jack of all trades, does everything well, nothing absolutely exemplary, but it does its job always, and it's very, very versatile, which is something I really appreciate, especially in a low-tiered mod like Mesprit here, which is awesome. And again, gives me another rocker, which I was kind of lacking up to this point. I really only had Swampert and Heatran, and they're not always going to want to run it, and they're not always going to come to every game, so that's great. Rapid fire continuing. Cresselia, tell me about Cress.
Cresselia is pain. It is the definition of a mon you don't want to face in the draft league match, because it's so bulky, it's so awkward, it lacks some good recovery, which is totally fair, because it gets rest in the end, or Moonlight. But Moonlight isn't the best thing. It can run Carmine, it can sweep you with Store Power, it can just be fat and bulky and sub-protect thingies, and has a ground immunity. There's not much really to say about this thing besides it being fat and annoying.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
And Sable's Trick Room, but he does not really have a Trick Room team to abuse that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of taunt fodder, won't lie, but you know, it can definitely be played around for sure. It's not, you know,
Yes.
It doesn't make it absolutely useless, for sure. Next up, we have Golbat. You want to talk about your Golbat pick?
Yeah, I decided to not get a grounded poison type because I'm not afraid of Toxic Spite, as he probably gonna get stacked every week. Golbat is a pretty fat bat. Maybe not as good as Crobat, but I really like using Golbat more than Crobat when I use both of them. And Super Fang is cool, U-turn, Roost, Defog. With an Eviolite, it's pretty bulky. And it's gonna take a bit for my opponents to break him, and while they do that, I have free time to chip their team away, because Super Fang is an amazing mon.
Super Fang, 100% accurate, Toxic, U-turn, oh yeah, Defog, so great mon, definitely great low tier value. Next up, we have Orbeetle from Tone, giving him some webs, giving him a ground resist that he doesn't really have right now. It's kind of a theme, as a lot of these teams aren't drafting ground resist. But Orbeetle gives him that. It gives him momentum and U-turn and teleport, gives him screens, gives him a setup sweeper with stored power and body press and Iron Defense and Calm Mind. I don't think it gets Cosmic Power, but I know it gets Iron Defense and Calm Mind, which is definitely very solid. It probably gets Cosmic Power. It looks like a mon that should get it.
No, it doesn't get it. It doesn't get it.
It doesn't? That's ridiculous. It looks like it literally looks like it's an alien bug. Okay, well, nice job, Game Freak, but definitely not a bad mon at all. Orbeetle again offers just you know, that extra layer to Tone's team here. Next up is man, can we just move on? Yeah, we could. I'll talk about it. John's really bad. John's super bad for drafting this Pokemon. I love him, and I was willing to look past his Metagross with his Latios Zamazenza, but he drafted probably the worst mon in all of Pokemon ever. Forever. No, it's not that bad, but I really don't like this Pokemon. I think that's no secret. I'm an avid Regieleki hater. I'm an avid Regieleki hater. I just do not think this Pokemon's very good. I get the idea of like, I can beat ground types, but the ground types don't have to stay in on the things that beat them. They just have to stay alive, and Regieleki is simply useless as long as you switch. So unless you have Goth, or like some Zoroark cheese, I don't think there's really any reason to draft a Lecky, but it gives them really fast mon. It gives them something to bully bulky waters if they for some reason stay in on it and don't just simply switch into the ground type that Regieleki can't force damage onto. It can boom, I suppose, but then you don't have Regieleki anymore. Regieleki for LC might be a little too good there. I mean, I don't know. There's also a lot of mons in LC that just absolutely wall Regieleki, so you might be right. Let's get Reggie in. Let's get it. Diglett can Diglett would probably drop to a Swift Water, but there's like Ferrothorn, Drillbur. There's so many LC ground types. So sorry, John, this is not my favorite pick of yours. I'm gonna give you a 2 out of 10. I see why you did it, but I don't agree, and he smells. Do not like Regieleki, but it can't be level 5 anyways. Oh, thank gosh. The Little Cup tier is saved. But it can screens and it can boom, which is nice for things like Zama and Latios and things like that. So you can at least take it and you know, Landers. So we all have our off days, and John was having an off day when he picked Regieleki, so it's understandable. Next up is Glaceon, another broken mon. What do you think about Glaceon?
I mean, it gives him Wish and Freeze
does.
Try. And I think there are some sort of setups it gets, even if it is Throat Fray Hyper Voice, but besides that, it's just a low tier ice type, to be honest. It's not gonna do too much for you, it's not gonna do nothing for you, and yeah, it's a Glaceon.
Use him on that. Use him on one that would more easily run Wish than something like Mence could. Like, Mence obviously can't, but doesn't want to a lot. He gives him a Cleric, and it's tier 5, so he can get some a little bit of value. Base 130 special attack, as Tiro said, yes, but Steel types do exist, unfortunately. But hey, you break down the Steel type, specs Glaceon time. It's here for you, it's coming, it's here and now. Or if you have like Ferrothorn, specs Glaceon time. It is a cute bond. It is an evolution, which is always a plus.
That is true.
Next up, the more base tier 5 steel ice type, the best tier 5 ice type, and Regice. Absolutely base pick. I love Regice. I think this mod is sick. It's so fast speed up wise. Boots made it great. It can sweep through teams with rock polish. Assault vest and boots are obviously great. It can thunder wave things. Focus blast for steel types. Bolt beam is great. Just overall general coverage. This Pokemon is very, very solid. I like Regice a ton. I really do think it's great. I know Kurt got to like tier 5 MVP in NTP Season 4 when we played him in finals, so he can attest how good this thing can really be as well. I think it's super slept on and very, very solid overall. Boom! Rapid fire Swoobat for Ant here.
That's like a interesting low tier setup sweeper. He does have the Tapu Koko, which enables the Electric Seed on this thing, which gives him +2 defense, on top of a Carmine, which would give him +2 special defense, because it has simple, and then it's probably gonna sweep you with Store Power, and you're not gonna break this thing down in time before it does something bad to you. So, I really like it on this team. It's not a flying type. I think he has 2 already.
It's triple flying.
Third flying type.
Triple flying.
Which is on electric terrain might not be the best idea, but to be honest, I see it working. I see someone at least getting 6 out by this thing, and it might be me.
Yeah, it's a tier 5. I get the idea. It's in tier 5 typically aren't coming, so you want to grab something that at least forces prep potentially if there's nothing in tier 5 that really fits your build. So you grab something that can, really force a ton of prep from your opponent, at least take away from something else, which I get. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, triple flying definitely isn't the best thing in the world with electric terrain, but it's also not the absolute end of the world. And he has great Spadef balls for, Thunderbolts coming his way, and he has a Garchomp and things like that. So hopefully he'll be able to deal with it over time. Rapid fire, on to the next. Delmise gives him Spin. It gives him a Grass type, which is good, because he did not have that yet, which is obviously very, very solid. That Ghost is the most spammable offensive typing in this generation, so it's always great to have one of those. And this thing throwing off big, Banded Poltergeist, or just Max Adamant Poltergeist is going to be really tough for teams to switch into. It has basically triple stab with Steelworker as one of its abilities, as well as its Grass and Ghost Stab, which is awesome. I believe it also gets Earthquake to hit steals and things like that. So honestly, Delmise is a really sick mod. I actually like this mod a lot, and I think it is definitely very, very good for sure. Oh, he has Ferrothorn. Oh, well, you didn't have a ground resist. You know what? Sometimes I miss these. It's been almost 3 hours, Gio. You cut me a little slack, man. But it does give you a ground resist, which is really important, which is more so what I was going for, because you kind of did lose to the move Earthquake at this point. So Delmise definitely helps out with that a little bit. Gastrodon, another water ground type.
Fun fact, this is the only high definition slide from John Jr. because he forgot to implement it in his slides. And
I think what actually happened is they sent them to me not via a drive, some people, and they just sent it to me, and I kind of just dragged them into a folder when I should have saved the picture, and it would have made it go bigger.
Oh, okay.
So I think that was on me, not the other people, to be completely honest.
No, but he forgot the sting regardless. I did it. But anyway, the beautiful fourth water ground type. Storm Train is an amazing ability for this thing because it can switch into a water type move and get special attack raise and start hitting things really, really hard. It also gets Sticky Hold to not lose his item, which might be important if we gave it a Rindo Berry and they cannot knock it off. He's pretty awkward to break since he's pretty bulky for what he actually is. And water ground coverage, Scald, Earth Power, gets Acid Spray, I think, and Clear Smoke, which
Sludge Bomb too. I think he gets Sludge Bomb too.
Yeah, but I think Clear Smoke is a big thing because it can stop setup sweepers on him, and I think he does not get rocks as well. I think he's the other thing that does not get rocks.
No, he doesn't. It's only Pert and Toad.
Fair, but overall a great water and a great ground Pokemon. Fits this team, and for the point he was at, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Boom, Lurantis. I wish I could say good things about Lurantis. It's not the worst thing in the world. It can definitely sleep through teams if they're ill-prepared with Contrary and Leaf Storm, and Superpower is a great combination, but between its low speed and mediocre bulk, it kind of gets overwhelmed a lot of the time, but hey, he got his ground resist, which is something, or another ground resist, which is something that was definitely needed. He needed a grass type in general. It also gets some defog, which is very great, but not much to say about, big Lurantis here. It is, at the end of the day, a Lurantis. Next up is round 10 Zeraora, which is pretty nuts. You want to talk about your Zera?
I was having a lot of leftover points looking at my team because I went pretty low tier, and yeah, I was looking at what was left and I realized I could pick up some high tier mons, and I saw Sarah and I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? It's Sarah. It's an amazing mon. It hits super hard. Plasma Fist is probably one of the best electric type moves in the game besides Bolt Strike. Besides Plasma Fist being 100% accurate. And turning normal types into electric type moves, which benefit from its water absorb ability. I'm immune to there's another electric immunity. Super fast. I think the fastest thing that's not Regieleki. And Dragapult gets not outspeed by this thing.
Yeah, it's just, I think you're outspeed by a Cellborn, Electrode, and Ninjask, but Electrode's not in the game. Yeah. So.
That's true. And yeah, it just fit my team. It was another super powerhouse I could take, so I did it.
Yeah, breaks waters really well as well. And if there's a round 8 Zeraora or a round 10 Zeraora, you take the round 10 Zeraora. Dr. Slacking this mod is absolute garbage. Last words before jail. That is an absolutely atrocious opinion, unfortunately. Next up, we have an even more powerful electric type in mid Pokemaster grabbing Raichu, Biggie Cheese, my boy. Gives him a 110 speed tier, just solid overall value as well. I don't think he has anything at 110 at this point. Nope, he does not, which is definitely very nice, kind of bridging speed tiers and bridging gaps and things like that, which is great. It gets Nasty Plot, it gets Volt Switch, it gets Nuzzle, it's like Extreme Speed and Wish, and a bunch of cool little kind of neat tech options. I think this one's actually very slept on overall. It doesn't get as much love as it deserves. I think this thing's actually very solid, and it is 100% better than Regieleki at Live. We had a 3-day argument, or not an argument, a debate over whether or not Raichu should be tiered higher than Regieleki, and I will stand by that until the day that I die, that Raichu is 8 times better. Because it also gets Surf and Grass Knot take grounds, which is pretty dope. My turn, a not as good electric type, but Boltund is here nonetheless, and it gives me a nice elite speed tier, something faster than 115, which I didn't have. Maybe it's not going to force as much prep as a lot of other Pokemon that hit that same speed tier, but it's here nonetheless. It gives me an electric type 2, which again helps me break grounds. Not grounds, doesn't do that actually. Helps me break waters, which is definitely very nice. And he's a cute guy. I love doggos, man. I love me some pups. And, I obviously love Boltund because of that. A lot of people don't like his design. I think it's really plain and just looks like a dog, which might be why I like it, because I really like Boltund's design. I think he's super awesome. So I'm definitely here for drafting it. Even if it's not the best Pokemon, I'd be lying if I said it was. But I do like Boltund a lot. Next up is Dracovish. We had round 10 Zeraora, now round 10 Dracovish. He's pretty simple and self-explanatory to explain, but you could do it in 2 whole words.
Vicious Rant.
Boom! That's it. Neolego. Next up is Nihi, another great round 10 pick. Oh man. Nihi is definitely very, very solid. Gives him a grounded poison, gives him a solid speed tier, and I believe it's 103 or it's a 102. It might be 102 or 103. Don't remember exactly, but regardless, it's very solid. Can speed boost if you EV correctly, as well as getting that special attack boost just naturally for max special attack, or even getting a Spadef boost, because I was crazy. Spadef almost resists water if you're switching into weak Scalds, which is pretty nice. It gives rocks, it gives toxic spikes, and then Meteor Beam sweeping through teams really well. The greatest Fisher's Friend explanation ever, for sure. I mean, that's pretty much all it is. But Nihi's definitely very solid. I love this one. Definitely one of my favorite Ultra Beasts to use, for sure. Boom! Guzzlord, another absolute behemoth of an Ultra Beast. What do you think about Guzzlord?
It's an offensive Transy, and I love using this thing, because people underestimate how bulky it actually is with 213 base HP. And even though it might not be the best Ultra Beast, it has the best coverage out of all Ultra Beasts.
Oh, yeah.
And it can use it. It really can use those coverage moves. And if you don't think about it too much, and maybe think, oh yeah, it's just a Guzzlord, what is it supposed to do? It's gonna drop a Drake on you and probably kill you. And that's what you have for that. Or gotta click knockoff and hurt something pretty bad. And once you start getting rolling, it's hard to stop. Except you have something that's higher speed than 50. But, they're always wondrous.
This can't break Necrozma. You're right, Amulet can't. This don't remind me, that was so sad. I played Dr. Slack in ICP semis, and he run Max Spadef Necro, and I was modest, pretty darn invested Guzzlord, and I was doing 30% with Dark Pulse. She was so sad.
Oh no!
Next up is Glalie, the absolute GOAT, the best bottom-pointed, bottom-tiered ice type. Fuck Delibird. We love Glalie. It gives him Spiked, which is actually really valuable for this team. I like that aspect of it a lot. It can Boom, it can Taunt, it can Freeze Dry, it can Earthquake, actually, which is interesting as well. Mega Glalie was one of my favorite low-tier Megas back in Gen 7 and in Gen 6 leagues. I thought it was really slept on, and I think Glalie is actually usable. I wouldn't even say it's slept on, because it is pretty bad, but it's definitely usable, and I do like the Spikes option that it offers Amel's team at that tier 5 slot. Great value overall. Is
Moody allowed?
No, Moody is not allowed. No, never.
Okay.
Next up is Miltank for D-Ray. Let's go ahead and get this one done and get into the final round. What do you think about Miltank?
The beautiful Miltank. We all love it, we all hate it. Depends on what side you are on. But yeah, Miltank is an amazing cleric, has good healer options, is a good curse sweeper, it gets scrappy so it hits everything with those facades or body slams, whatever you want to use on it. And pretty fat mon, pretty good mon, and one of the better normal types in my opinion.
No, for sure. And its speed tier is actually it's really sneaky fast, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Next up is Big Golurk. Gives D-Ray, I believe, a ground type, right? He didn't have a ground up to this point. Yeah, it gives him a ground type. Gives him another ghost type, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Double ghost is something I've definitely seen before. It gives him another rocker, which is great. Poltergeist is great, especially with no guard. Not missing Poltergeist is also even better with Dynamic Punch and Earthquakes and Stone Edges and things like that. Or you can go Iron Fist and throw really big Drain Punches, Ice Punches, things like that as well, and do a absolute buttload of damage. You can Rock Polish up and sweep. You can be like weird Trick Klutz sets and like Trick Assault Vest onto things, and or Trick Flame Orbs onto things, which is definitely really interesting as well. So I really do like Golurk. I think it's a pretty solid mon overall. For sure. Rapid Fire, next mon, Steelix.
Speaking of the ground type desperately, here we go. He gets rocks with this thing. Again, which is not Necrozma. We get an amazing defensive steel type. It also gets Dragon Dance, but I don't think anyone ever used Dragon Dance, to be honest.
Oh man. It's so ironic that you have Amel drafting this. I saw Amel in DPL, which is a very illustrious draft tour in the showdown scene. Amel is known for in the finals of the tour in his game in best of 7, he brought Dragon Dance Mega Steelix and got up to +2 and swept with it when he was in a really bad position before. So Amel is the perfect person to make Dragon Dance Steelix work, and I'm really hoping he does it.
I want to see that at least one.
T-Row just said Amel beat L5 with D-Dance Megalix. He did. That was a crazy, and he was playing against like Tour MVP. Like L5 was having like a crazy season too. So, like Amel knows how to use his Steelix, so I'm excited to see him get it.
That's amazing. Steelix also gets access to Body Press and Iron Defense, which is pretty cool. Rest, Rocks, Earthquake, Heavy Slam. A lot of moves that actually can hit pretty hard. And just a pretty cool mon overall, in my opinion. Sheer
Force is also really slept on. Chuckle brought that versus me in NCP top 8. He brought like Sheer Force, like Fang moves and things like that with like Life Orb, and it hits really hard. It has, the same attack side of something like a Nido King or Queen. So when you compound that with a Sheer Force and a Life Orb, it's actually a lot stronger than you typically think. Boom! Raboot, the little Sasuke bunny himself, little edgy bunny. He's definitely pretty dope. I like him a lot. It's like a tier 5, budget type pick. Gets good momentum. Solid Scarfer. Libero is just a great ability. Something like Frogadier, where like it's a bad Pokemon, but you give it a broken ability and it's usable. And that's basically a Raboot. Gets Flare Blitz and High Jump Kick and U-Turn and all the stuff that Cinderace gets. That's not Court Change and Pyro Ball, obviously.
Pyro Ball. Yeah.
But definitely very, very solid. I brought D 2 times. I'm not afraid to do it again. I know you aren't, my friend. Next up is Claydol. Let's jump into this last pick for Trexo. What do you think about Claydol?
Claydol, Levitating Ground type and Psychic type with Rapid Spin, Stealth Rocks, Teleport, good coverage options like Ice Beam and I think Thunderbolt if I'm not completely wrong. Overall a pretty cool mon. It gets, I think, Nasty Blood, I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's pretty bulky, so you could get away with running Rapid Spin and like Weakness Policy and Sweep a Team. And it's not too slow for that.
It's not.
So, I really like Claydol as a mon. I drafted it a couple of times and I never was disappointed by this thing. Also, I think Teleport is amazing.
Oh, for sure. Great slow momentum, and it gives him that ground type, which is great. Next up is Toxapex. Not the mon I'm too fond of it because I think it's a bit passive, but I think in the right hands with the right player, it's great. And again, another regen mon gives him that bulky water, gives him that grounded poison. So ticks a lot of roles. Definitely makes a ton of sense on this team, as much as I'm not a big fan of it. And against if it's not played around correctly or prep for sufficiently, it's basically unkillable. So that's definitely very scary for a lot of teams to potentially try and deal with. Next up, rapid fire right into my pick. I got Drifblim this round. Kind of take advantage of my Rillaboom's terrain a little bit. Now I am going double flying with Zapdos plus Drifblim, but realistically I don't think it's too big of a deal, especially because I want something that forces a little bit of prep. I wanted a Ghost type as well to block Spin. I get some Grassy shenanigans off. I can get some Key Bear shenanigans off. I could just be Fat Boots and be annoying if I really want to. Strength Sap and Will-O-Wisp and, throw off Shadow Balls and Air Slashes and a bunch of different coverage moves like that. Thunderbolts. I really like Drifblim. I had him BBR one season without any terrain, so with terrain I think it'll be even more fun. Next up is Runerigus, if you want to talk about mids, ground, and ghost type right here.
Not gonna lie, that's my favorite Pokemon of the new generation. I just love it. Like,
Very
design-wise,
cool
it's not maybe the best Pokemon competitive use-wise, but it's a really cool mon. Like, its ability is really cool, because it's continuously spread around the board if you don't be careful about it. It can be double-edged sword sometimes, but sometimes it can be really good. Like, in case if you couple it up with a Regigigas and override your slow start ability, that's really fun. You have rocks, you have, I think, toxic spikes. It's really bulky. It does not get any recovery sadly besides Pain Split, but it can be in emergency case wise. It's just Iron Defense and Body Breath like any other bulky mon.
Oh, for sure. Next up, we have Conkeldurr from you. You want to rapid fire into that one?
Guts.
Yeah. Guts and Facade
Guts
and Close
Default.
Combat and Drain Punch and Knockoff. That's about it. I agree. Mach Punch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Buttons. Clicking buttons, basically.
Exactly.
That's pretty much it. Great wall breaker for your team too. I like it a lot. Speaking of passive, we have Blissey up next, Giving Tone. A much more reliable Ghost Resist, though, so I do understand in that sense. He only had Persian before, which does not appreciate taking Shadow Balls. Doesn't have the best Spit F stat, which is definitely fair. Kind of lost him with Shadow Ball before this, so Blissey helps him out with that. It gives him Rocker, it gives him more momentum with Teleport. This thing's great with Boots. I can Seismic Toss. I've even seen Calm Mind do some work. It can Toxic Stall things down, Thunder Wave and Seismic Toss. General nuisance, as I said before, and it's a great status absorber with Natural Cure, so definitely not the worst thing in the world. Lycanroc Midnight. What do you think about this one?
Lycanroc Midnight, the mon that got advertised with its signature attack being counter. What a great time to be. The only cool thing about this thing is actually it's no gut Stone Edge shenanigans, because you will never miss those. But besides that, it's kind of lackluster in my opinion. It's a good Pokemon in some scenarios, but mostly not gonna do what you expect it to do, because it's slow and frail.
Yeah, tier 5 Rocker. It's definitely not the best one. I probably wouldn't draft it myself, but good tier 5 value, and gives him a Rocker, gives him a Rock type, which he didn't have up to this point. So not the worst thing in the world for sure. Regigigas. Big Regigigas, Chads in the house. I really do like Regigigas this gen. It got Protect, I believe now, right? And it got Rest. So
Protect and Rest, yeah.
Yeah, they finally decided that Regigigas wouldn't be broken with Rest and Protect, which is good, because he's still really, really bad. But at least he is a lot more usable now, at least, which is definitely very solid. It gives Tiro a Ghost immunity, which he did not have up to this point, and his Dark type is Urshifu. So I do think he still struggles pretty heavy with Ghost types in general, but Regigigas at least gives him a pivot into them. There's nothing to take hits from them. While it doesn't do so super reliably, it can still do so in general, which again is very very important to potentially have and all that stuff. So that's going to be Regigigas. And then the last pick of the draft.
To end all things off, we're gonna get the last S-type Pokemon that was S-tier Pokemon that was around, Pheromosa. I used Pheromosa in BBL, and I really love this thing. It's super amazing, it's super strong, and it's more bulky than you might think it would be. It lives banned with E-Speed from a Rayquaza, which is super cool, I guess. But besides that, it has pretty wide coverage. It has a pretty good offensive stats, which it had to get because it doesn't have any defenses. But yeah, That's like one of those mods you don't look at it long enough in prep, and you may overthink one little fact about it, and you're gonna lose the game to it. Especially in a format like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think Pharaoh plus Coco plus Chomp is pretty insane. RIP Blaziken. Blaziken did not get drafted. He was the S tier that was left on the bench. Tone said, no, I do not like Blaziken. Which is fair. Probably one of the weaker ones of them all. But I was excited to see it get drafted. But Pheromosa is definitely very, very solid. Like I said, Coco, Pharaoh, Chomp is pretty darn ridiculous. And Coco, Coco Pharaoh is just such a great momentum core. They really just bully each other's checks. Pheromosa is crazy. It has crazy coverage. It you can boost on its own. It rapid spins. It can potentially quiver dance on some flex type shit, which is definitely very cool as well. So I think Pharaoh is definitely absolutely amazing, and I think it fits this this team really, really, really well, which is definitely super dope. So I think that was a great pickup by Ant instead of grabbing Blaziken would have fit well as well, but I think Pheromosa fits even better, which is definitely smart. And that's going to be the draft stream.
No. Go on to the last page. I added your hidden feature.
Oh no, you put it in the thing. I forgot it was there. That's hella funny. That's going to be the draft stream. I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean? That is the last pick. Then we have Eldegoss. Yep, there's Globule of Cum, the muck. I was sitting in calls making my things, and I was just scrolling through, and I was like, oh shit, the real S tier. So here's Big Muck, the final pick of the draft. Let me know what you guys think of everybody's drafts. Go ahead and sub to each and every one of the coaches for sure. Draft analysis are going to be going live tomorrow. I just didn't have time to stream tomorrow, and we wanted to get a draft stream out to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and drop the SBU Discord server as well if you guys want to come hang out and talk to the coaches, things like that, watch games, or be notified when games go live, all that good stuff. That's going to be that link. Again, everybody's in the description. You can also exclamation point your favorite coach. You can exclamation point sub, and you can sub to me, or you can go check out Lucas, my wonderful co-host as well, which I just did exclamation point Lucas for. Go check him out. And yeah, go sub to all the coaches. Hope you guys are excited for the season of SBU. It should be fun. We haven't seen S tier league yet this gen, and it should be a good time. But yeah, go show all of our coaches love. We have a lot of new content creators in this league too, so if you can go show them that support. I know this will be Tiro's first league that he's ever uploading. I know this will be Amel's first full league that he's ever uploading, or like upload required league that he's uploading, which is definitely cool as well. So we have a lot of new guys in the community. We have a lot of old faces that you guys already probably know and love, but if you haven't checked them all out, check them all out. Lucas, do you have anything to end off the stream?
Just small thing. Thanks for having me. I hope you guys did enjoy, and that's all from my side. Hope you guys have fun with the season.
Yep. We'll see you guys later. Everybody have a good night.